All right. What's up, everybody? How you doing out there? Welcome back to the show. This is last week's fights. My name is Thinker St. James, and tonight we are going to be talking about each and every fight from UFC Fight Night. Bonfim versus Brown, taking a look at UFC 322, Della Maddalena versus Makachev. And to do all of that with me, as always, the man, myth, and legend, Chase Parton. How are you, sir?
I'm doing all right. Just so you guys know, you did not accidentally put that in 2 times speed. No, we were just going to head and run this down really quick one more time for you because we are in the house for Monday and we are here to talk about some fights. I hope you guys are
Indeed,
here.
yeah. Sis, apologies to anybody who was here earlier and was having technical difficulties. Apparently, we had some problems with the stream. Hopefully, everybody is here now and able to be viewing us live. And if you are listening to the audio only version after the fact, we had some problems on the live. So this is the take two of everything. But we are here now, and we are here to talk about these fights. Chase, what's good?
Dude, there's nothing good. Everything is great. I'm telling you, we're always locked in to talk about fights. When it came to this card, you know, for the last couple of weeks, people were talking about these are the apex hell that we were about to be in for the last two cards. And the last one lived up. This one, we are going to talk about some that did a lot of finishes. But once again, we ask the age old question. Does a lot of finishes make a great card? And we'll talk about that a lot in this. So go ahead.
Indeed, there were a lot of ups and downs on this one, but I believe that the entire main card was finishes. So, without further ado, considering that we've already gone through the early preliminary stuff for this, I mean, you can say if you want, what were your initial impressions of this card on paper, Chase?
Um, you know, not great. Not great.
Yeah,
Not
this was a lesser one.
Yeah, I don't know what it was. I think because, like you said, there were a lot of finishes, and I can definitely tell you there were some performances that were really good. But this one right here, the ones that weren't finishes, and the ones that were late finishes, even if we even had late finishes, I don't know. They just didn't. They ruined a lot of shit, bro. They just ruined the pacing of the event, I think. Like, I was like pulling my hair on some of these. Like, that's not good.
Now, ups and downs. There were a couple of performances that were better than others, I guess you could say, and some fights that were better than others. But as I had said, coming off of last week with all of the craziness following Vegas 110 and everything that went down at Garcia versus Onama, I thought that this was a nice change of pace to just have a standard down the line card. Really, the only weirdness on this card in any kind of major way was in the main event. And of course, we'll talk about that. But other than that,
Mark Smith. Mark Smith.
yeah, well, you're right. Yes, yeah, it was a Mark Smith one. Which Mark Smith generally not one of the ones that has too many. I mean, but like again,
We
you
will
can say that
talk
about
about
any.
this.
I say, and you can say about any of them that they have their times and all of this. And who knows? And the joke that I had made before we crashed was, how many of these fights were fixed? Who knows?
Yeah, true.
You
Well,
pick the ones that you think might have been.
I didn't actually bring it up. The last time we filmed this, I was, when you said that, I was thinking like, okay, we just had a betting scandal. We're in the apex. They're right in front of Dana's fucking eyes. This better be the most purest form of hoops when it comes to UFC that we've ever seen. And to be fair, I don't think it was. I felt a lot of, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about this.
All right. Well, then why don't we do just
We're
that?
going to shout out the chat first.
Oh,
Oh my
please
goodness.
do. Yes, go for it.
Anakin, Mank, Beeb, Rick Allen's two dads, Hydra. You guys, always loving you guys.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for being here, and thank you for bearing with us through the technical difficulties. Y'all are the real ones.
Yeah, true.
All right. So let's start this thing off going
Oh,
through.
Didgeridoo, you too,
Oh,
Bell.
yeah, right there at the
Right on
right.
time, dude.
Yeah,
Fuck.
right on
Look
time
at the
indeed.
devil.
Under the wire. But let's start this thing off with Zachary Reese and Jackson McVeigh. This was a catchweight fight at 195. Zachary Reese in on short notice. Chase, what'd you think of this fight one more
One
time?
more time. This is actually a fight worth talking about a second time, and it's the only one that we're gonna because the other ones we might not even talk about once. But either way, this one right here, truly off the couch, Zachary Reese. He didn't get the call the first. He didn't get the first call. It was Dante Johnson. We can maybe confirm that if we do another take. Zachary Reese gets the call, comes in here, and this first round, And you know, I obviously know already because I can sell the future. Thinker has a different opinion from what I saw in this first round. Jackson McVeigh was butchering Zachary Reese. Now, Zachary Reese was having some good counters. You know, they were very powerful in the, you know, it just took a lot of time for him to find and set the position because Jackson McVeigh had the volume of, I don't even know, but he was just putting a pace and putting a mixture of elbows and knees that was just very, it was very skillful. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was not disagreeing that Jackson McVeigh was getting the better of it, but what I was saying was that both of them were so willing to be in the half clinch, you know, that tie clinch that they were moving in unison with. It was again, it was very much like a dance. What I had said is that on the watch along, me and Vitz King were commenting that like they were moving as a unit from one side of the octagon to the other together. They were like dance partners with this. McVeigh was definitely getting the better of it, as we had said. Also, he dropped him with the knee, so you know, I mean, and the cut as well. I mean, McVeigh was doing the better work on the feet. But again, to go over the timeline of this fight was basically where it would end up going because this was giving Zachary Reese the information that he needed in order to, you know, get to where he wanted to eventually go.
I'll go ahead and shout out my first comment right here because it was the Mank, and we're going to go ahead and talk about him. He says there's no footage anywhere. Speaking of no footage anywhere, we will never find footage of him saying that Zachary Reese by submission is a good line. It's a good prop to take before this fight started. I laughed at him. You will never catch that actually happening. It's false. It's a false equivalency. He didn't do anything like that. But I will tell you, Zachary Reese getting the submission is as close to fight fixing as it comes. I mean, this is the same thing with Charles Radke. It's like now you're a submission artist, dude. You strike every fight in the first round and either get knocked out or knock out, and magically you have a backpack and an arm, or you know, a rear naked choke that you could just pull out your ass. You know, it was actually really good. And you know, shout out to Zachary Reese. Jackson McVeigh looked like he took the loss very hard, but this is like bare minimum what you can want out of a UFC fighter is just to get your ass whooped and then actually still continue the fight. I mean, you don't have to finish it like this, but like, you know, he took a good whooping and he was still willing to, you know, go forward and take a round two and potentially get whooped again, you know. So shout out to Zachary Reese. He not the best, but honestly, very, very fun when it comes
Well,
down to it.
and really the timeline of the fight was what gave Zachary Reese the information that he needed in order
Mhm.
to adjust. And I thought that that was kind of veteran level and to an extent because what happened in this fight, if you were not watching, was that they were going in the clinch really hard at each other, and Reese was getting the worst of it. He was taking a lot of the brunt of it, and he also took a nut shot at one point. Since he had been cut, the referee took that time to also bring the doctor in. And the joke that I had made was this cut was a 4 on the Irene Aldana scale. This was a not really a cut that necessarily needed the doctor. It was a decent sized cut, but whatever, abundance of caution. They bring the doctor in. So a lot of rest is going on here. And a lot of gears are turning in Zachary Reese's head saying, man, I'm getting kind of cooked on the feet here. So the second half of the first round, Zachary Reese takes it to the ground, realizes that Jackson McVeigh is not as great off of his back, and then says, this is my new game plan going into the second. He continues that, and there you have it.
Yeah, actually, and I'm glad Hydra is here. This is why the chat is so good being around, is because he did correct me. He's tried submissions before. He did just got slammed by Cody Brundage and you know, eviscerated inside the cage. So,
True.
you know, 1 for 2, I guess, is what you can call it. Say he's 50% on the, you know, on his career, and we'll call it a day on that one. This was a good performance from Zachary Reese. I mean, other than some random dude just, you know, beating the hell out of you. I mean, this is what fighting's about, though. You know, you got to be able to have a fight where you get your ass whooped, but like you figure it out later. Like that's how you know there's like, you know, there's a dog there. You know, not every fight's a walk in the park. You know, when you have somebody, I'm throwing names out there. You know, Armin Petrosian or something like that. Anytime you get wild with the dude, he's just like, I'm out. I'm good.
Yeah, and it makes me kind of sad for Jackson McVeigh because we were saying that coming off of a coming off of a loss and not having a win in the organization here, wanting to fight for his job essentially, he really went out there and did that. I mean, he that first round he was putting everything he had into it. Kind of got figured out by a more veteran fighter, and now takes another loss. So it's unfortunate there. And as I had mentioned as well, that he had a really nice move where after the first takedown in the second round, it was kind of a crafty move to get back to his feet, but then he still got taken down thereafter. So kind of negated that. My point being is that I do think that there are good qualities to McVeigh. I think that he's a tough guy. This was the longest fight of his career. He had never seen a second round before this fight. So I think that there are the building blocks of a decent fighter in there, but he might not be able to see that considering that he's not fared so well in the big leagues.
Yeah. This one, it was just really fun. I'm glad they started out with this fight instead of the normal female fight that we normally get. Those are normally fun, but the one that we got that we would have got on this card was not going to be. And so, shout out to Zachary Reese and Jackson McVeigh. You guys did put on a pretty good one. Zachary Reese got a performance bonus for this, actually. Um, you know,
Well, we'll talk about performance bonuses because there's somebody who was asking for one who did not get one, and that'll I think be an interesting point to mention later on. So, yeah, good for good for Zachary Reese. Coming in on short notice like that and taking home the dub. I think that's strong showing for a guy who's been slightly spotty, even though he's a pretty entertaining fighter.
100%.
All right. Well, let's move on to uncharted territories here now with this second fight of the evening here. This is Miles Johns versus Daniel Marcos. And what I had said coming into this fight was that Miles Johns is a fighter who goes out there and he's pretty tough and he's decently skilled, but he never wins fights convincingly. And so if this was going to go to decision, it needed to be decisive for him. But of course, that's not how it ended up going. And I think that the over eagerness of Johns to try to get this thing done was ultimately his undoing. I think he came into this a little hot.
I think, this is one of the few times where, in this card specifically, where I just wrote the fighter off really early. Not the opposition that ends up winning, but the fighter that I picked. I mean, I can instantly tell you, like, as soon as I saw this fight, give it a few minutes, it's like, no fuck, yeah, no way, Miles Johns, just give it up, dude. Like, I don't know, you just didn't. I'm not seeing the winner. I'm not seeing the winning game plan here, and then the way that he ends up getting finished here is just unsettling. But when I think back to what I said about the contender series, I know this is apples and oranges here when you have contender series people and then UFC actual prospects. These guys that are literally 18-1, 17-0, 16-1, whatever these guys are, the Peruvians, the Argentinian, the Chilean guy, these South American guys that have just had these stat padded records. You guys question, like, maybe they've been fighting cans this entire time, but it's like, I don't know. I'm actually kind of on board with them. I mean, 18-1, and you go out here and choke out Miles Johns. It's like, that's pretty good. I'll give it to you. And Miles Johns, I don't think this is not the performance that he's normally giving. This is why I picked him, is because he's a consistent fighter. He'll give you the same performance every single time. It's not the greatest. And like you said, it's normally just skating by. I was joking that all he normally does is wear a look of determination on his face, and he normally gets the judge's fucking nod in these fights, which is crazy because he's rarely doing anything when you look at when you look at the scorecards at the end of the fight. It's like, where did you even do anything? And it's, thankfully we had somebody go out here and finish Miles Johns, because on the other end of that, I was praying for like a decision from him, but why do I keep wanting to see so many decision merchants in this game? Daniel Marcos is one of these dudes that we also said, this is like a decision match made in heaven. It's like, thankfully he ended it. Now he actually shows like something. He'll show some type of, eagerness to win the fights instead of just convincingly cage holding and, knee thigh kneeing and shit. So
yeah, well, I think that he was able to kind of sway the course of this thing. Marcos was. I think that he saw what like this is what I'm saying about Johns coming into this thing a little hot. You saw him a little feisty pre-fight. Forehead to forehead, getting a little a little scrappy.
Random ass fight to have beef, like, dude, like, what are you doing?
Yeah, for no reason. I mean, I highly doubt that Daniel Marcos was talking an amazing amount of shit. Maybe he wasn't. I wasn't aware of it. But either way, it's like
I could also see that as gamesmanship from like Miles Johns, like not just like gamesmanship in the sense of like obvious, but like he's just like a man of the sport. Like that's just how he performs. Like we'll get in each other's faces, we'll yell a little bit, but it's all like handshakes at the end of the day.
Oh, most definitely that, and also I think that coming off of 2 losses. I mean, Miles Johns is on a losing streak right now. So another person is similar to McVeigh, in a situation where he's like, I got to create a little bit of an atmosphere here for myself. Also had family in the crowd. crowd, which makes this all the more difficult, of course. But so there was that. But I mean, I thought that he was navigating the fight pretty decently early. I thought he had some good shots, but he's not the most powerful striker. He's a good volume striker when he has the fight that he wants. But Marcos did a good job of recognizing that, ties Johns up, negating the striking. That's where John started to have the problems. It was, like I said, competitive enough in that first round. I did give the round to Miles Johns, but the convincingness, like I was already saying even before things started changing, I'm like, I don't know if this is going to be convincing enough, because he sometimes has these problems. Then that single leg in the second round was really what started to change everything, because he went down really easy off. It was like a nice quick pick of the leg and he was already on the ground. And then, this is also coming after he had been winging shots that he had been missing. I think Marcos figured everything out. It was like, okay, these are the adjustments. Again, very similar to the fight before. Like, make the adjustments going into the second round after what you saw in the first round. Worked out perfectly fine for Daniel Marcos. The stickiness of Marcos really turned this thing into the fight that he wanted it to be. And then, as you said, unsettling is a good way to put that rear naked choke, because it was so dead to rights deep, and he ended up going to sleep.
Yeah, one of these guys that he'll trick you. He'll put the hand up there like, oh, he's gonna tap, and then he'll just go to sleep. Like,
I mean, it's like sometimes they can't get to the actual motion of it before.
But I think he's one of these dudes where it's like, he's going to sleep. He's not gonna tap in front of his family. He brought his kids. That was his first, his kid's first UFC fight that he saw him live or something like that.
Yeah, sucky. That's
Belly of
always
the
what I
beast.
say. Yeah, exactly. And leave the kids and the wife at home, brother. But either way, I mean, definitely a good fight IQ on Marcos to recognize how the fight was trending. Good fight IQ for Marcos to recognize that the neck was wide open, because it certainly was. Johns was kind of on all fours at one point there and just snatched it right up. So you leave your neck open with a guy like Daniel Marcos. And, not that he always is going to do that, but like, again, you leave your neck open for anybody, then there's a good shot of it. And Marcos, a dude who obviously recognized that. So good for him. I thought that this was a solid win. And Miles Johns, 3 fights in a row, 3-fight losing streak is not a great look.
This is like one of 4 fights on here that are just like people that are like 2 ranks apart. So it kind of doesn't even mean anything. It's like this is 13 versus 15 or something like that. It's like, all right, I guess they don't go anywhere. I don't know. It's just kind of randomness. But when you think of like matchmaking, like normally we get like 7 versus 12. Like we have like a decent jump that the person would make, and like maybe when they actually adjust the rankings, they'll land a little lower than what he was supposed. Things like that. It could make it interesting, but it's like if you're telling me Daniel Marcos just jumped 1 person here, it's like, well, okay. So
I mean, but still, 18-1 and gets a finish win. I mean, maybe that speaks a little bit higher. And really, I think the other side is we just a slight little side note, but I think it ties in here. We just saw a couple of fighters who kind of questionable as to whether or not they were deserving of getting cut, who got cut. Quang Lee and Yanal Ashmuz both cut from the organization sort of unceremoniously, and both of them, I mean, maybe Quang Lee a little bit more so, but Ashmuz was 2-2. So, I mean, there could be a number of different reasons for it. But my point is that it just might be that time of year that people are starting to get shaved off. So I would think that Miles Johns might be a little concerned, perhaps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. He has not been the most exciting, obviously not the biggest star in the UFC, and now getting finished by somebody who's not known for finishing. It's like, what if we get finishers now against you? Because normally we just throw you against people that are just average run of the mill kind of guys, like Dan Argueta. It's like not really top competition there. So this one, chalk it up to Miles Johns just being on his way out. Daniel Marcos is still, I gotta see you against. I know Miles Johns, again, proven, consistent fighter, but Daniel Marcos, I got to see you against like a really good striker now, I think. Somebody who's going to defend the takedowns and, give you more than 33 strikes on the feet. So
Yeah, well, I mean, at bantamweight, there's plenty of options, of course. Like these lower weight classes have a lot of variety as to the type of game plans of the fighters. So the higher up he moves, the more opportunities there's going to be for a bunch of different styles that could give him way more problems than that. And he's out here claiming, "Oh, my last fight wasn't me. I'm a better fighter. This is the fighter that I am more." In reality, it's like, okay, well, then you need to show that going forward as consistently as you can. And now he will have the opportunity to do just that.
100%.
So, all right. Well, that one is that one. Let's move on to the next one here and start off our little spat of of less than stellar performances. This is Tisha Pennington versus Denise Gomes. My note from last week was that I thought that Pennington was going to be faster, and if she used her volume, she could get the better of Gomes, who is going to be slower and heavier striking. I think in general terms, I was correct. However, the volume part was really the problem because the speed looked there early in the fight. It tapered off very quickly into this fight, unfortunately for Pennington, and her volume did not match the speed. Gomes is just slow. She is a slow striker. She's a slow kicker. You basically know, like when she's setting up her shots, the shots that are coming. She's kind of telegraphs almost a lot of what she does, like more often than not. So like you have to have speed in order to counteract that, but the volume has to come with it. I think Pennington really kind of fumbled the bag on this one.
This one, this we talk about this sometimes. Fights that are just one long round.
Yeah.
This fight right here, golly, this one was really hard. Like being this early on after, obviously we were still riding the hype of the first fight. The second fight was good. First fight, we're like, we're still thinking back on that right now. And then we get this one, and it's just two people who they're not cut, nobody's cutting off the cage, like the way they're just like shifting the position in the cage, but they're not actually advancing the position on each other. Like they're just moving throughout the cage, throwing strikes, and honestly, it just wasn't doing it for me. I mean, you guys know when you watch a fight and you know what's exciting about it, and there's at least like a give and take on both ends. When it comes to a fight like this, it's like you're just watching two women strike, and it's not. I hate when people use. I mean, I guess I don't necessarily hate the sparring session kind of comparison to some fights, but when it comes to a fight like this, it's like they are kind of just like training with each other. You say it. You've said it before. A handshake agreement kind of deal. Um,
Yes. Yeah. Most
so
definitely. Yeah.
yeah,
No.
this one was hard.
Yeah. No. I would think that is pretty accurate. But I want to give Gomes a little more credit than that because I think that she was doing her like the best version of herself. But I've never been super sold on her in general. I like again these things that I'm saying. Like another big note was that she's not very accurate either. It's like if you're going to be setting up these heavy shots, you have to have the accuracy there as well. And it's just like you're tiring yourself out for nothing if you don't have that. So like with the slowness, the lack of accuracy, like these are her qualities, and like she is putting out the best effort that she can. But at the same time, it's like the handshake agreement becomes what Pennington was not doing, which was not counteracting those things well enough. I was saying that like at one point she threw an uppercut. I was like, you should be throwing 3 times more of those because she got like that one good one lands and then Gomes dips her head. She doesn't capitalize on things like that. It's just like a consistent, like if you go point by point of it, a consistent like missed opportunity throughout the entirety of it, and Gomes just doing an okay job, which that in and of itself is the handshake right there.
Yeah, this one, God, I see the chat is caring a lot more about this performance than I ever did, and it's hilarious because this is unfortunately some of the top performers in strawweight currently, and individually they've put on good performances, but and this happens with male fighters of course sometimes too, where you just kind of get a stalemate when it comes to the fight. Even like CT ESPN is saying, unfortunately there just didn't feel like there was any danger. It's like they didn't really feel like they were putting it on the line. I don't know, and it, that's just what it was. And when that happens, or when I get that vibe, because you can get that feel, like it's not like 3 minutes in they're finally it's a rare case that they finally start fighting back, kind of deal, in a sense that they can actually get a finish. But like in this fight, you kind of clock out early. You're just kind of watching it, and you're just like, they're fighting. They're doing it. They're still doing it. You could look away for 30 seconds. You come back. They're still doing it. As people are talking about, you can go get a meal. You can go do anything, piss break, whatever people want to talk about. You come back. They've been doing what you walked away from them doing still by the time you get back. And like, sometimes they'll be grappling, sometimes they'll be in a different position. But when you get fights like this, where it's literally just the same camera angle that you've already seen 7 different times, like,
Well,
it's
the
hard.
one point of this fight that I think does counteract that, because I
Okay.
think that you're pretty accurate throughout like 99% of it, but in the third round, Pennington did have a really, really nice throw, and then Gomes had a very, very nice reversal of it.
I
So
do remember that
give it,
that
yeah,
portion of it. Now that you mention it, good memory. I think it was worth bringing up because the throw was good, and then you're like, oh shit, she reversed it. Like that was, rolled right through or whatever. That was pretty good. Yeah, definitely
that's about it
good
though.
memory. Yeah, that was
Yeah, yeah.
definitely about it.
Yeah, and right, and I mean, and that the rest of it was Gomes really, she was going for the striking more often, even if she wasn't super accurate. So optically, it's going to look better, even if she is missing. She was, she landed a couple of them there. She was first a lot. That was a big note that I had for Pennington. This was just a poor performance from Tisha Pennington here, in my estimation, and it made Gomes look better than I think she actually is. So there again, you said the handshake agreement. I think that it makes a lot of sense in this one, where you have a fighter who's going to fight consistently okay, and then another fighter who's not going to rise above that. There's the handshake.
100%.
So yeah, so I'd say Gomes taking it 2-1 was how I had it. If you had it 3-0, whatever. I mean, that's fine as well, I guess. First round was a little bit closer to me, but like I said, I think Pennington was slowing down significantly into the second round. So
Yeah, how many wins until Gomes gets a title fight? 7, probably. Like, no,
I
it's women, so it's literally probably 2. But again, this is one of those ones. I was just about to bring it up. This is like 12th ranked versus 10th or something like that. It's like, who even is gaining anything from that? Kind of. It's like, why even take the time out of the camp, because you're not going to gain too much traction. You're just going to gain the activity, and you're going to stay active, stay warm, but you're not really going to gain any progress to the belt, because normally you have to make those bigger leaps, and then you're 1 to 2 fights away from it. It's like, at this pace you're jumping 2 ranks. It's like, Jesus fucking Christ, like, come on, pull an arrow.
Well, whether it's 4 fights or 14, you're seeing the progress, and that's who knows? Maybe this is the run starts now for Denise Gomes. She's comes back an entirely new fighter. We'll talk about one guy on here a little later on who I thought looked the best version of himself that I'd ever seen. So I mean, there's always still value there, I would say, even though you're making good points regardless.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's move on from this one. Let's get to this fun little affair here. This was Josh Hokett versus Max Jimenez. Why do these BJJ guys come in with no striking? I don't understand how time, and especially these big ones. This is Buchecha Part 2 over here. Now, granted, this was another Vitiligo king here. Melky Costa had a companion in Max Jimenez. Fun fact, apparently Brazil has one of the highest percentages of vitiligo cases on the planet, we found out on the watch along. So there's your little informational point for this one. But either way, regardless of that fun fact, this dude had, like, if he's going to be a BJJ guy, he's standing and striking against Hokett, who apparently has some decent striking, also a wrestler. I thought that this was going to be heavyweight American freestyle wrestling versus BJJ, and it just turned into a striking affair, and a very one-sided one at that, because the BJJ guys don't know how to strike.
I'm glad you see things a lot different than me. And here's what I'm going to go ahead and say. Max Jimenez did everything wrong. Of course, he lost the fight. But what he did is he quickly showed us that Josh Hokett is going to get leg kicked 3 different times, and he's not going to be standing, because I didn't know this was a BJJ guy. I would have thought, okay, he's at least some sort of kickboxer or something, because he threw a kick, and it was fine. It landed, it did some power, it did the damage. It was a big old clubbing leg kick. Maybe that's why it hurt so bad, because it wasn't very technical. It was just, I'm going to kick the shit out of this dude. And Josh Hokett instantly limped. Like, he was like, hobbling away. And like it wasn't bad, but you could tell that he wasn't like trying to put too much pressure on it. And all somebody has to do is then just blast him again with a leg kick. Like, Max Jimenez, again, you see 2 for 2 on leg kicks, and then he, gets murdered. But before that, what he did, what he symbolizes, what the idea is, he completed. He has successfully achieved, proving that Josh Hokic has a chink in the armor already. In
Sure.
his first fucking fight. Normally people come in here like Bo Nickel didn't get exposed until whatever you want to say. So this
Yeah,
is
no,
just a guy off the couch.
yeah, you're definitely right. Hokit reacted pretty heavily to that, at least that first leg kick, definitely. Probably both of them to an extent, but yeah, he kind of went doing a pirouette after that one. So yes, there's definitely a weakness to the game. But really, what you do if you start getting touched up the way that Jimenez is to initiate the level change, which he did not do. And Hoke just starts exactly down the path that is working for him and continues down that path till he knocks this dude out, folds him. So, I mean, really, this is because yeah, if you are not aware, Jimenez is like one of these again, Buchecha Part 2 is actually really accurate. This dude is like, a champion BJJ guy with a lot of, competitive BJJ wins and all this kind of stuff. They're trying actively, we've talked about this on the show before, they're trying actively to bring in different styles to heavyweight so that it's not just a bunch of dudes slugging until they gas out and then just flopping all over the place. They want a little bit more skill in the division. This kind of fighter could have been that had he actually tried to use those skills, but he did not, gets knocked out, and now the problem persists.
Yeah, we want to talk about problems persisting, and we'll talk about it later with Mark Smith. But this was another Mark Smith fight where he literally Max Jimenez, obviously was getting rocked, got knocked unconscious. It's one of those ones where he's like falling against the cage and like he can't really go anywhere else. And then he gets hit more times, and it's like, Mark Smith, what are you looking at? Like, as a fan, I'm like, all right, stop it, stop the fight. Oh my goodness. Like, you had to give him the extra moments to let Josh Hokic have like a good highlight reel. Like, it wasn't like Mark Smith stopped the fucking fight of Chris Curtis with 1 second left, and now he wants to fucking see murder in the cage. I don't know, just crazy to me that this is one of two on the night that he did not do anything with a lifeless person on the fucking canvas or whatever. So
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess that perhaps he looked back at himself. He did a little bit of introspection after this one, and that's how we ended up with the main event being the way that it was. Maybe, but I didn't really think that
was
it
he the
was
main event too?
Mark Smith. Yeah, that was the whole.
Oh, we have another one to talk about. That's three on the night. Then we'll talk about it. Continue,
Well, I don't remember this one being
dude. This
that
one was
bad
pretty.
though. I mean, I know that he definitely he folded. I mean, you saw the leg go limp underneath his body. So yeah, I mean that certainly wasn't a good visual there. But because how this whole thing started was that that Hokit initiated it on one side of the cage. Jimenez goes to the other side of the cage, and Hokit just follows him, striking all the way, basically. Just following him over there, striking again on the other side. So it was, yeah. I mean, maybe steps in a little bit earlier, perhaps, but it didn't seem that bad. But it is heavyweights, so obviously, when the knockout is initiated, it can be much worse. Either way, though, I mean, you say that Hokit needed to get a highlight reel knockout. I mean, he makes highlights every time that he is on the microphone, bro. What did you think of this epic post-fight speech of his?
See, I'm not even that when people talk about casuals, right? There's people out there who would be like, wow, he just did a really cool post fight speech. There's also people who would know that that is Chael Sonnen's, speech or whatever. I, however, am the casual who grew up just watching Chael Sonnen trash talking clips. So I know what this is. Like, as soon as he started talking, I'm like, holy shit, he's worse than we thought. Like he don't have no charisma when it comes to this shit. Like you don't just sometimes you buy it from people, and it's I just don't buy that this is truly him. Like I don't know. Like he's putting on the Colby performance. Like it truly feels like Colby at heavyweight.
Bro, literally the same note that I have about Colby is exactly what I had about this in the notes. This was a very cringe, very try hard imitation of Chael Sonnen. This is the most cringe one we've had since his last.
Yeah,
performance on the microphone. Uh, but bro, I mean, what my thing is exactly what you're saying. You know, some people you believe it, some people you don't, whatever. And even if you don't believe it, you still can go with it with some people. This guy definitely not. And my thing is like, just like Colby, this guy looks at himself in the mirror, practices this lame ass nursery rhyme bullshit, and then thinks it goes hard when he does it in the cage. It's like, bro, we see through the bullshit. We see through the bullshit, brother. You're not doing it. It all like, I understand that these people like him, like Colby, they think that they need to do this in order to become a thing, to become something to talk about. Obviously, we're talking about it right now, so maybe it's working to a lesser extent. What I'm here to tell you is that we will talk. We're talking about every one of these fights. We will talk about you because of your knockout. You don't. Colby had a reason. Colby had, at least in what he had said, Colby was on the verge of getting cut. Colby, thought that his time in the organization was going to be over. This and that. He thought he needed to make a statement, or he was going to lose his job. You are just starting out. You have no reason to be doing this. No one likes this. Stop it.
yeah. I'm not the biggest fan, but once again, we got heavyweight prospects. I'm a Mario Pinto fan. Shut up, Portugal. I'm a Mario Pinto fan. Josh Hokic, just don't let us catch you, guy. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Especially, you're calling out Walter Walker, which I think is actually a really good call up because that gets you way high up after a fucking first, after your first performance. Also, you can go out there and lose all you want, but it still gets your name high up in the rankings. You're still in the mix against Walter Walker. Go in there and lose by heel hook, and I'm sure you get a nice social media run from it. I think that's all we're waiting to see out of Josh Hokic. He doesn't, I don't know. Apparently, he was in the NFL. Doesn't look like he made too much money because now he's in the UFC, but uh, I don't know, this persona, I hope it works out for him, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm glad that you did say that about his call out though, because I agree. I think it's a good call out, and considering that Walter Walker was calling out Hamdi after his last heel hook victory, then obviously Walter Walker is fine with fighting down for whatever reason. So yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And the other good part of this, if you strip away all of the dumb trash talking nonsense, is that Hokit is a wrestling base. He is a American freestyle wrestler, so theoretically at least he should be able to defend a heel hook. So there is actually a genuine level of potential competition out of that fight. So I like that.
I like this comment from CTESPN. Thankfully, Hokic came to MMA so someone could knock him out. Rush him to Dalia. Love it. Love it, actually.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as long as Dalia can keep his hands closed this time around, maybe that'll
No,
happen. But
no, because this is and this is what we talked about with Tom. If I was anybody in the UFC, I would be watching out for all of these people making the comments on Tom. Anybody that says Tom is a pussy, I'm gonna make sure I accidentally poke that dude in the fucking eye the next fight because then you better go through with it. You better get back in the fight, champ. Even if you're blinded, you just called the champ a pussy. Now you want to fucking act like you're the man. So that I think that's and with Josh Hokitt talking about Ante Dalia, I mean Josh Hokitt is definitely the type of dude to stir up something with Tom Aspinall over the eye poke thing. Probably already did. He's definitely getting eye poked here soon. He's definitely, we're gonna see if he's actually gonna go through with it, but that's just
all
my
right.
opinion.
Well, keep your eyes on him, I suppose.
Keep your eyes open.
Indeed, yes. All right. Well, for here right now, regardless of his antics and all of the outside the cage stuff, this was a fine victory over a whoever basically. I don't like to keep to have striking in this. I don't. I think that this should be as elementary as it gets in the organization, in MMA in general. This is not competitive BJJ. You have to strike.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
All right, let's move on here.
Oh, please, do we have to?
I know. Yes, we can get through this one very quickly. This is Myro Bueno Silva versus Jacqueline Cavalcante. This fight was atrocious up until the last half of the third round. It actually got a little bit competitive at the very, very end of this thing.
MBS.
You already checked out by that point,
I mean but like MBS, her style is so bad for the viewing experience when she is not able to do when she's not able to grab a hold of her opponent. And Cavalcante is a very good rangy fighter. I mean, if you look at her legs in this fight, you would think they go on for days. This girl is a very tall female, and she uses her range very well when it comes to striking. Okay, shout out Portugal. And MBS has this prowling, nature where she's walking forward. She's just trying to grab you. She's trying to get you into the clinch. She's trying to do, it's like, and then she just gets her ass whooped for 3 rounds. And then what's unfortunate about her in this fight, and I don't think I've even seen it in her face up until this point, I saw genuine look of like, I ain't got nothing. But she's a warrior and she knows like I just gotta finish this fight. Like I don't have anything. I'm just gonna get my head boxed off for the rest of this fight. But there's only 3 rounds of it, and I'm not going to get finished. And so shout out to her for that, because later on in the fight, she started to go for it. But again, checked out. How she even won a single round is beyond me. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, no, I don't think that she did really. But still, I mean, you say that that she had that look on her face. She just always looks like she's on the verge of tears, so it's kind of hard
True.
to, kind of hard to gauge. But yeah, I had that in the notes too. Just what the hell happened to Mayra Bueno Silva? Her fall off is like so dramatic and feels like it came very quickly. I mean, like it felt like she was literally a title challenger at one point. As crazy as that may seem, it's
Off
crazy.
of a loss to Holly Holm.
Right. Yeah. I mean, crazy at the time and crazy now, but, crazier now, I guess I should say. But, either way, I mean, this drop off has been dramatic. Cavalcante barely had to do anything in this fight for the first 2 rounds, most definitely. She had like 3 strikes up top in the first, clinch control in the second with a couple of knees. This was a very easy sparring session for Cavalcante, who I've never been too sold on to begin with either. She's very plotting on the outside as well. Like she'll meet you halfway only if she absolutely has to. She does the bare minimum in order to win, and then does, I mean, still, 10-1. I mean, obviously it's been working for her, but that has never sold me because of the style that she has. It just doesn't, it's not enough for me a lot of the times, but fights like this make it all work out for her. So this fight was so boring that the first 2 minutes, the commentary didn't even have anything to say. They were just kind of sitting there silent. Like
Crickets are just fucking chirping.
And in that apex, when it is silent, it is dead silence. Good Lord.
Yeah.
You can do your pin drop.
It's even worse because sometimes like they'll just bring up random shit, but they're bored as fuck when they can't even, hey, did you know there's a bakery in town that they, like there's not even advertisements that they've been playing. They forgot to do that shit. They've been sleeping.
Yeah. And to be fair, this was not the best crew for bringing up random stuff, because this was like Dom Cruz and Fitzgerald, and I think Felder was the third, maybe. But this was not those guys are like kind of the more no nonsense sort of dudes, essentially. Like DC could have, he could have spun a yarn for us, but nobody was doing that. And Dom Cruz is sitting there like waiting for something to actually comment on. Mm-hmm. Wasn't coming in this fight, but until the third round though, where I thought that they actually started to be somewhat competitive, and Mayra, if somehow, some way just figures out, oh, maybe I should try to strike a little bit. It's like now you should try to strike. When you're down 2 rounds, you just decide to strike. I mean, Cavalcante matched and surpassed her is what I said about this.
Yeah, I think CTESPN, I don't know if Cavalcante is just playing with her food or if it genuinely took her 3 rounds to get her reads to open that much. What I think is, if either are true, one, if she's playing, that's what it is. Well, MBS is just bad, but Cavalcante might be. I mean, look, this is an opponent who doesn't genuinely block her face. All she does is walk forward and just eat punches. She's kind of like that Brian Ortega effect. Like all she does is just threaten jiu-jitsu, and you can just strike with her and she doesn't do anything to combat it. And I think that's just what's crazy about Cavalcante is if she's playing with her food for 2 rounds, if that's what playing with her food looks like, well, genuinely, she's not that good. Or if it took her 3 rounds and the reads opened up, mate, 3 fucking rounds and the best you got was that 3rd round and you still ain't put nothing to get, like, I don't know. Like, she's good. She's fine, but, like, I don't know. You should, but if you were somebody really good, like, somebody's got to be able to finish MBS at this point. Like, she's just a walking target. She doesn't do much.
Right. Well, see, that's the problem, though, is that Cavalcante is not good. Is what I'm trying to say here. That's when I put up Hydra's comment. That's who I thought I was talking about. This was bad versus worse right here, in my opinion. I've never like Cavalcante is okay. I'm being a little bit hyperbolic. She's just okay, in my opinion. And like there is going to be women higher up that are going to bring a fight to her and she's going to get overwhelmed. I can already see this happening. In fact, there was a fight, I swear there's a fight that she had in the past that we talked about on the show that I thought that she was on the right side of a robbery on that one. But either way, the point is that Silva, for whatever reason, has just dropped so far down that it makes this type of performance get by for Cavalcante. She is only going to meet you as halfway as she needs to. And that's just what's going to be. So, like, Bueno Silva deciding late in the fight to start striking, Cavalcante is like, oh, okay, I can just do a little bit better than I was doing before, considering I wasn't having to do anything before. Like, this was just like an easy spar for Cavalcante and Amira Bueno Silva, who I don't know where her skill went, if she ever really had it.
I honestly, I feel bad because CTESPN once again coming in with the great comments. Speaking of Kayla subs them in either round, round in 2 rounds either way. The thing about that is, I genuinely overlooked like Cavalcante is a bantamweight. Yeah, she's screwed. You're telling me her versus Amanda Nunes is possible? Like, no fucking chance. Even Raquel Pennington, like Cavalcante is just like I said it earlier. She's really tall, so she must just carry weight really well because she's not like a very large when it comes to the women bantamweight. Kayla Harrison, hey, she's a very large woman. Amanda Nunes is a very large woman. Raquel Pennington, in her own regard, she's decently bulky kind of deal, little fire hydrant build. Cavalcante though is tall and skinny. And she doesn't necessarily seem to have like a grappling game to back it. I don't know. I haven't seen it yet, so I don't. This is kind of tough. That's crazy. She's a bantamweight though. Wow.
Yeah, yeah. And again, she is going to get figured out very quickly by a higher level fighter. Myra Bueno Silva is like in this at this point. I think I had said this on the last episode that it's like she has a little bit, and I mean very little bit at this point, but a little bit of a name. So it's another nice easy notch for Cavalcante, as we already know that the trajectories are going in two opposite directions. Bueno Silva is on the downslide. Cavalcante, they're trying to prop up for whatever reason, and she's just going to hit a wall. I can guarantee. I see this from a mile away. I don't know exactly which opponent it's going to be. We'll have to see who they pair her up with, but she is going to hit a wall in a major way because she's just one dimensional. That's it's very, very basic what she does. And there are fighters who are going to be a lot tougher and offer a lot more of a challenge for her.
100%.
So with that said, we can put this one into the history books, I suppose, because this was a tough watch.
Hell yeah, it was.
All right, well, this one was a lot better, in my opinion here. This was Ricky Simón versus Hani Barcelos, my old king, Hani Barcelos, getting the job done yet again. It's been a great year for Hani Barcelos.
He cannot keep getting away with this. He cannot keep getting away with
Getting away with what? Beating Ricky Simón?
Being good at this
square?
age. Being good at this age, yeah. He cannot keep getting away with this. Ricky Simón, once again, pulls out the I'm inconsistent card. Don't know where it comes from. Don't know why he pulls this one. Maybe he's being told to throw these fights. I don't know, guys. You can't rule anything out these days. But Ricky Simón, this one wasn't my favorite fight. You might have a lot more to say about it, but again, this was one of those one long round fights. I don't really think there was much that made me think different. Ricky Simón even winning one round is I don't think is right to me. I don't remember him convincingly ever taking a round. I thought maybe that first round because I think he actually cracked Barcelos, but Barcelos was I guess I'm still not going with it, and we'll talk about why because I brought up great points, and this is the case where it doesn't. It did not come into play yet. When you're an older fighter, it doesn't matter when, but when you get chinned or get whatever, it's that millisecond or that inch, just between the punch, grazing your nose or it chinning you. And Hani Barcelos, is at that point where he can still have the speed to get away from that inch where, he's not getting chinned. And obviously he did get cracked in this one, but he's still not getting chinned yet. But when he does, it's all going to be blamed on his age. And then we'll talk about a fight later where I think this comes into play a little more. But for now, Barcelos is doing good. Another prove me wrong performance, but he's going to continue he's going to continue to need to have those because I'm not going to bet on the old ancient fighters anymore. Because when he gets chinned, it just makes me feel bad. Like I knew better not to bet on the 41-year-old person who strikes and gets round one knockouts. That's not him, but again, we'll talk about here in a little bit. Barcelos, shout out to him. I'll give him some props.
I like that you can talk yourself into still being right, even being very wrong about this one. But that's a skill in and of itself. So
Mm-hmm.
shout out to you, Chase. No, look, I will agree with you that this was one of those high paced, consistent output fights with both sides getting their licks in. So I can see it kind of feeling like it was one long round, but there was definitely more variation here. And what I will definitely note about it is that it wasn't in this fight, not any one thing that was like the winning thing for either guys. Like it was a couple of good shots on both sides, a lot of good movement in this fight from both fighters. 3 solid competitive rounds. Barcelos just taking the last 2 of those. Yeah, Ricky
Mm-hmm.
landed a couple of good ones in the first. Barcelos able to navigate all of that. This is one of his best assets, I would say, as a fighter, is being well-rounded, first of all, and then second of all, meeting the fight where it needs to be. Like he allowed Simone to kind of not necessarily tire himself, although he did tire out towards the end, but like he felt the power, he saw the navigation, and he responded very accordingly to all of it. Like Hani Barcelos has very high fight IQ. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that that's something that, like, I don't want to necessarily just attribute that to his age, but I do think that maybe there's a little part of that. And then also just being a very skilled fighter, which I think those two together, what I would say is that I think it's a shame that he's at the age that he's at, because if this guy was 10 years younger, he would be a real name right now. I mean, like, he's just now, for whatever reason, I guess maybe it's the competition and, just the being around as long as he has been, he's starting to rack up a couple more wins and people are starting to recognize, especially after the Peyton Talbot win. But like, he's got a lot of really good attributes, great cardio on both sides, but like the cardio on his side outlasted a little bit longer. And with the pace that he kept, I mean, it was just the consistency of the output and the navigation. I think that he did a really, really good job against a dangerous competitor in Simone. But like you had said earlier, he plays the inconsistent card, and that's where we got with this one, unfortunately.
Well, and I think that's where a lot of these people on this card fall into is they magically are just inconsistent. And I think that's where a lot of people end up in the Apex is because they don't put on that guaranteed banger, or, even guaranteed decisions, that can land you on a pay-per-view spot. Look at Oban Elliott, for the longest time, he'd get a pay-per-view spot because he represented a region. All he knew it'd do is make a long fight and make it not at least the most boring. When it comes to people like, Ricky Simone, you'll have a performance where you go out there and you knock out somebody, and then you'll come out here and you lose over 3 rounds to Honey Barcelos. It's like not. It's not like nobody was expecting you to be able to lose to somebody, but it's like you'll go ahead and have a win over Marab, who's the current champ, and you'll just lose to fucking Hani Barcelos. Like, all right, dude, you motherfucker.
Yeah,
So
yeah, I understand the feeling. Of course, time changes a lot, so that's, I guess, what you can chalk the Marab win up to on that one. But yeah, no, I mean, I think that really looking at the way that Hani Barcelos navigates fights, I'm a fan, man. I really, not just being the old guy who's defying the odds. I think that it's the fight IQ is what really stands out to me with this guy. Meeting, it's just such a skill that, like, I know that you can teach it to an extent, but I do think that it's like the pairing of the experience and the skill is what really allows you to meet the fight where it needs to be met. And that is what Hani Barcelos at this stage of his career has mastered. So it's a little unfortunate that it's only now coming into its prominence, but for these types of fights, these types of wins, I'm definitely a genuine fan. I think this was a good one.
yeah, Unk still got it for sure. I'll give it that. I'll give him that.
Exactly. Unk still got it. One of the, the only ones, unfortunately, on this card. But good deal, Hani Barcelos. Congratulations on a solid win.
Hell yeah.
All right. Next up was Hyder Emil versus Jamal Emmers. This fight started with a very nicely placed nut shot by Hyder Emil. I was like, damn, right on the money, that shot.
Yeah, no, this fight, other than the nut shot, this is another one. So I talked about Miles Johns, instantly knew. He just don't got it. Like this one ain't for him. This is This is where I officially and listen, I right hand to God, we have jumped off the train for Hyder Emil. He's done. I mean, he just don't have it. I was defending him so hard too. Like it was the first round. I was listening to people say, "Man, Hyder looks tired," and I'm like, "All right, let's calm down. He's still walking forward. He's one of these guys that's gonna look tired, but I've seen him perform through tiredness. He could look plenty as tired as he wants. He'll still come through." After that second round, no fucking chance. I'm not, no fucking way. Not even thinking you had the possibility to win. You're on your back gasping for air, basically. Like, what am I watching in this fight? It genuinely was making me mad because he's one of these dudes that wears one of these mouth guards that has like fangs on it and shit. And then if I have to look at you gasping for air with fangs, it's like, really? Like, you must be some fucking killer, huh?
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I mean, Hyder is tough. He'll consistently walk forward. Unfortunately, early in this fight, it was often into Jamal Emmer's punches.
Maybe it was an injury. Okay, so CTESPN, he looked like he was genuine pain when he was on his back. Maybe it was. Maybe that's what that was. It looked, I don't know. Maybe I was being bought into the tiredness thing, but if he was in pain, okay, fair. But he looked unable to do anything in this fight that was worth anything. That was like really hard to see because this is somebody that like at the bare minimum, all you got to do is eat shots and just walk forward and throw your hands. That's all I love from you. And it's like he didn't do that in this one. It sucked.
Well, yeah, and I mean, and look, injured or not, I mean, like I'd have to know when the injury to if he came into the fight injured, then maybe I guess there's something there. But like he had a lot of time to recalibrate. There was one time on commentary I remember distinctly where Dom was saying he was like Emmers was on top of him and he was like holding him close, and Dom was like, "Oh, he's probably recouping. He's trying to gain some of his cardio back. Catch a breath." He was like, "Oh, he's going to stand up and he's going to go right back to it," and he just never did. And that so it's like I don't factor in a potential injury or whatever. Maybe that's cope. I don't know. Either way, it just allowed for Emmers probably to look a little bit better at the wrestling than he actually is. But he just wore Emil down with the striking, then kept control with the wrestling. It was a sadly well-rounded performance, I guess you could say. I mean, like he did all of the things that he needed to do after negating the one thing that Hyder is going to do. Like he met him where he need. I got a lot to say. Where they're meeting him halfway. This is another one. He was like, okay, I know what he's good at. I will wear him down, and then he's not going to be able to do that anymore. I'll do what I want.
This comment here is absolutely gold. If Emil's stock is dropping, then I'm buying the dip. I really respect that because this one right here. Maybe we are making a case. Maybe something was up because I wasn't being too generous to somebody that I've seen the dog before, and like I said, I was defending him. Like he ain't tired. Like even if he is, he knows what he's doing, and the fact that he just magically didn't. Emmers is not that great of some like he lost to Nate Landwehr. All right, like let's calm down. Like this is not somebody who's fucking 18-0 in the promotion. He's 22-6 or 8, whatever that is. 8. Jesus Christ, exactly. Hyder Emil, I'm hoping you were injured. Please, I'm gonna give you one more just because CTESPN has me buying into it. Maybe listen, next fight, I swear to Lord, I already did right hand to God, but I'm putting it back up. Right hand to God, Emil. We're buying the low stock. We're coming in, we're swooping, buying the dip with CTESPN. And when this investment hits, muy caliente, we are going to the moon, my brother. And I am ready.
Well, I would be very concerned with that buy-in that they tee up some hot shot, maybe not necessarily fresh off Contender Series, but like a dude who got one solid win after Contender Series, and they're like, okay, now we can really test this guy see if he's really, really about it. That would be the next like that would be my train of thought anyway as to what they might try to do with Hyder at this point. And if that's the case, then it's really going to be the make or break one there. I mean, this one was probably somewhat make or break in that regard as to how you were talking about it. But at that point, I think that I'd be a little bit worried if you're buying in right now.
Yeah, no, this one really hurt me. I'm not gonna lie because, like I said, checking out early is really that sucks. That really sucks because once and then not being surprised, like not checking out is like turning it off, but like checking out mentally, like all right, He's not winning. The slips aren't hitting. Let's just watch and try to enjoy the fight. And then it goes exactly to decision, and you watch your man like just hands on his hips, and he just walks out the gate. It's like you like I don't know, dude. Hyder Emil, I'm really banking on something that was really up, and like we said, short notice. Let's just go ahead and pray that you're going to make a good comeback.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'll believe it when I see it now, because those kinds of things, like a performance like this, definitely does change the perception a little bit.
Mm,
And I mean, because like what you like, it's like what you were saying. Like Emil has a fan friendly style when he's able to get the fight that he wants out of it. Like, I mean, if he, like when he's in there and has the control and is laying the shots on, and he's in the driver's seat, then everything goes according to plan. What I was hoping for in something like this, especially if he was coming in with some type of compromisation, is that you have to have the backup plan, and the lack of anything off of his back was certainly concerning here. So I'm going to need to see a dramatic shift in quality level when you are up against the wall, because that's what he was in this fight, and he couldn't do it.
yeah, true. So, and shout out Hydra with this one. There has to be something wrong, or else I was totally wrong in my judgment of him, and I can't accept that, dude. Yeah, like I said, I normally the eye test will tell you a lot about a fighter, and normally I would like to believe that when it comes to a certain caliber of fighter, I'm good at spotting out who is not just good. There's great fighters. There's potential to be great, and I feel like I like to be able to know who the great tier fighters are before they are. And Hyder Emil was one of those guys that I would say potentially could be a great tier fighter, but after something like that, I mean, I don't know what I'm thinking.
Yeah, well, and those are the kind of fights that really set him apart. If you can come in on short notice and be that great, then maybe there is something to the equation. But if that is what you end up with, then the perception should rightfully change. I
Yeah,
mean, you got to be great all the time in this sport. Sad to say. I mean, this is a very unforgiving sport in that way. I mean, this a lot of time. Think about how many times it's like a three strikes you're out kind of thing, unless you're a very very beloved fighter.
right.
So
Exactly. Or
one of
Michael
the
Chandler, which he's neither of those. So
or beloved by the organization, perhaps.
there we go.
But yeah, so really, I mean, it's kill or be killed often in this sport. So Hyder's got some ground to make up.
Yeah.
All right. Let's keep the train moving on to the main card here. Christian Leroy Duncan versus Marco Tulio. Immediately after this fight, I posted in the Discord just saying, I know, I was very much wrong in picking Marco Tulio, but in my defense, this possibly is the best that we have ever seen Christian Leroy Duncan in this organization. Actually striking first. He was first to the striking, which is a rarity for him. Like, he actually brought the fight to Tulio, plus all the creativity that he has. This might be the evolved version of Leroy Duncan that we've been looking for.
What I think is, I hate to burst your bubble. This is unfortunately the version of Christian Leroy Duncan. Like he is another person who pulls out the inconsistency card. This is Leroy Duncan in the apex. You know how I know? Because the first fight that I ever saw Christian Leroy Duncan, I used to make shorts about this dude and his fight against Daniel or Darren Taluluin, something like that. He literally did exactly just like this, and it was like 10 times more brutal. And I remember thinking, like, holy shit, this dude's next up. Like, this is the next level guy. 3 fights later, here we are. We see a performance like this, and this is what Christian Leroy Duncan can do when the spotlight's not on him. We just saw him in England against Andrei Puliev, and he did none of this. He comes in here against somebody who he doesn't feel as threatening as a striker, apparently, and he goes all for it. Robocop, you know, shout out to Christian Leroy Duncan. I'll say this: the main thing about this was, at worst, it's going to decision because Christian Leroy Duncan is not going to get finished. Uh, but at best, Christian Leroy Duncan has the potential to finish Marco Tulio. He's been finished before, and it didn't go exactly like I was thinking. But like you were saying, Christian Leroy Duncan came out here with this level of confidence, and he was able to put the pace on Tulio that was unforgiving, and it was definitely a nasty performance. And you said you didn't remember another Mark Smith fumble. Did you not see the extra shot on this one?
Well, I mean, come on, though. He was going for it. It's not what Mark Smith's supposed to jump in
No,
front of the. He's not going to jump in
bro,
front of the shot. I mean, like, he's not going
mm,
to take the shot himself. He would
bro,
have had to.
no.
He would have had to have literally put his body in front of him to get that shot
He
from
no, he
landing.
had plenty of time to step in.
Nah.
No, 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 no. Leroy Duncan wasn't throwing the punch. Like the dude fell over and his hands are folded in between his legs, his head's on the mat, and then Leroy comes to throw it. It's like Mark Smith. Where was all this diving in front of it? Again, I go back to Chris Curtis when Roman Kopylov kicks him in the head, and there's 1 second on the clock. Nothing's happening to Chris Curtis, and he runs over there, grabs his arm, like, whoa, 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 calm down, calm down. Like, nothing's even happening at that point. You get a fight like this, and Christian Leroy Duncan gets to drop a fucking nuclear bomb on Tulio's, like, eardrum. Like, craziness is crazy what this was. Like, holy shit, it took years off this man's life. Like,
It wasn't, yeah. I mean, it definitely was, the good measure shot for sure. I mean, look, if it was, then it was. And I mean, I thought that it was one of those ones that was just honestly, I think it really was just the pace that Leroy Duncan was putting on this dude. That it was just
yeah.
like he was going so fast that the pace that he was keeping throughout the entirety of this fight was ferocious. And Tulio could not keep up. That was, just the general note of the fight. So one more at the very end. I think it was just because he was in such go mode, but either way, fair enough. If it was one that should have been not happening, that the ref should have stepped in on or whatever. But
Yeah.
really, I mean, like the thing that was interesting to me, what you were saying, thinking that Christian Leroy Duncan was coming in with that level of confidence against Marco Tulio, a dude who, to think that he could be that dominant against a guy who had been really decimating people for a little minute there. He was on quite a run for a second there. Like the attack patterns of Tulio is what I liked about him the most. I was like, this guy mixes it up nicely, has a good arsenal in his at his disposal that he was using really effectively. And for Christian Leroy Duncan to just not pay any kind of credence to that, go through like he was any other schmo. I was like, okay, I mean, this is a different type of beast here. So I mean, can he do that consistently? I guess that's the issue, right? Like you were saying.
Leroy Duncan is one of these guys who, if he feels a physical, imposingness over his opponent, he can just walk through him and knife like butter. But when he feels like somebody actually is, mogging him, RoboCop, of course, he just doesn't have that level of aggression. It's just unfortunate because we gave him the opportunity in England in the O2, and he didn't do fucking shit against that Puliev dude. So, it is what it
Yeah.
is. Apex you come.
Well, and I did want to, at least acknowledge that I thought Tulio was trying to do the right thing at certain points here because he was trying to slow the pace of this thing down. He was trying to clinch up CLD to, again, the guy came out so aggressively and so like navigating so effectively that, he was a lot of times when he was clinching up, I think he was just trying to keep him in one place for a little while, which theoretically was the right thing to do. But CLD just not having any of it. He just pushed
Yeah,
past all of that. So, I mean, I think that the only other thing that he possibly could have tried to do is really, really make it get to the ground, but probably wasn't going to be happening there either. So, really shout out to Christian Leroy Duncan for being the leader of the pack on this one. I mean, getting it done creatively as well. Another nice highlight reel with the spinning back fist to set it up. And then the combination that actually finished it before the extra shot was, really really pretty as well. So this was just a very dominant performance all over with Tulio, who, like I said, I thought he was doing the right things to try to hold the storm back. But sometimes when the dam bursts, you can't do that.
100%. Yeah, this was a good performance from CLD, but
Yeah.
again, can't really trust it too much because once he leaves the Apex, he ain't doing that shit again.
Well, and that's the big issue, right? I mean, because that's really what like when you end up in these kind of back and forth win loss, candy cane record type situations with Christian Leroy Duncan. I mean, like not necessarily full on candy cane, but a couple wins, loss, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. You almost are middling yourself, like just by nature of your record. Like you are creating your own ceiling if you cannot be that great elsewhere. If you
Yeah.
can't do it outside of the apex, whether it's the apex or not, or the competition, whatever the reason is, that kind of a record does not advance you in any meaningful way unless the entire rest of the division just somehow drops off and you're the only guy left, which that's not going to happen. So, especially not a middleweight. Well, maybe a middleweight. Maybe there's a little potential for it a middleweight, possibly, but I don't think so.
Yeah, well, we'll see. But again, great performance. CLD, love to see it finish, but Marco Tulio did not need to take that extra shot, man.
All right. Hey, look, I mean, if that was the case, the way in the moment it didn't seem that bad, but I'm seeing what the chat is saying about it. So fair enough then.
Once again, I'll bring it up on the stream because I think it is fascinating. Marco Tulio's one of his first professional wins is against a man named Tulios Marco.
That's got to be there's got to be something there that can't be legit.
Yeah, it can't be legit. I agree with that one. He probably just wrote it in there, and they were just like, "Who's that guy?" And he drew a mustache on his picture or something.
You seem to believe that these fighters, when they're early on, that they just like sit back with like a notepad and just like create their own backstories.
Why not? I mean, WWE shit. I do the same thing for WWE superstars. Whatever.
Oh, there you go, and that's why you're undefeated in all books, Chase.
There we go.
All right. Well, let's keep this train moving here. Chris Padilla versus Ismael Bonfim, the first of two Bonfims on this card. Of course, this was the lone weight miss of the card, and it was a pretty bad one. Ismael Bonfim coming in 6 pounds overweight here. What'd you think?
I think this guy is genuinely way too happy for missing weight, losing a fight, and then quitting the fight. Obviously, we'll talk about that here in a second. I don't know if I'm here to praise Chris Padilla, though. Chris Padilla is good. He does get finishes, and he is always a dog. Why is he always the dog? We got to figure out the reason behind this. What does Vegas know that we don't, or what do we know that Vegas don't? Chris Padilla is, every time I see him fight, he kind of is just there, not doing too much. He'll land strikes. He'll get, he's in the fight, but he's never doing anything up until the fight just like ends. And it's not, again, with the Rangzu thing in the elbow, it's like they were having a decent little scrap. It wasn't anything too crazy, and then he lands this crazy elbow that just ends the fight, right? This one right here, nothing too crazy going on, not putting a pace on that would make you think like, oh, Ishmael needs to fucking get up out of there. Like, he's going to finish him. It's just like Ishmael, like the Bonfim, bro, literally just like decided to quit, like after not much was happening to him. It was kind of great. Like, the finish was good, but this was more on Bonfim just being a loser. Like, I don't know.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, I think that what I'll say about this, said not much happening. I mean, I think that Bonfim was landing some pretty good shots early in this fight. So that's what was happening. I agree with Dom Cruz on this one. Dom was kind of echoing what I said last week, saying that Padilla's, like, one of Padilla's greatest strengths is his fight IQ. I think that he navigates fights well. So, like, when you're saying, oh, he's just kind of there until he wins, whether you like it as a strategy or not, I think that in a fight like this, especially with a guy who missed weight by as much as Bonfim did, I think it was the right call here, because we've talked about weight misses in the past, and like there are a couple different ways that manifests itself. One of them is when a fighter has a bad cut, and there might be a health issue or an injury, whatever made it a bad cut. They come in compromised, and they just couldn't make the weight. It was a struggle, and they didn't do it. This didn't seem that way to me. He just seemed like he didn't want to cut the weight. Like,
Yeah.
he looked pretty okay. He was moving very well. That's another big tell. If they're in there moving around all over the place and they have the extra weight on him, that usually means that they didn't have to like go through the whole process and rehydrate and all of that. He looked perfect, really, Ismael Bonfim. The problem was, I think that the extra weight and the just the navigation of the fight on his side of things, he put too much out too early, and that's where the fight IQ came in for Padilla. Padilla did what Tulio wanted to do. He slowed the pace down with the clinch. He allowed Bonfim to punch himself out a little bit. These are the things that I think that Tulio probably could have, if he had been able to withstand the shots. That might have been the same kind of thing, but he was able to withstand the shots, Padilla. So that's really what ended up happening. I think Bonfim, he put so much out there, especially in the second round when he did finally start hitting the wall, because earlier in that round the shots were very heavy. He had a couple of really good combos in this fight. Like, I was like, man, power on the hooks, really nice combo work. I'm like, this dude is tagging Padilla up, and then all of a sudden Padilla just starts taking the lead. Bonfim doesn't have anything left in the tank. He thwarts the takedown and drops him with a knee, and the whole momentum shifts at that point. So that's really, I think, how Padilla ends up winning this fight, and that's also why I think Vegas has him as the dog a lot, is because it's like the savvy navigation of a fight does not necessarily equal up to, man, this guy is a winner, I should put all of my money on him. It's just one of those things that can get the job done in a fight like this.
Yeah, this one, it just raises so many questions. It's like the Bonfim Bros have a gym that says Bonfim Brothers on it. Do they know that one of the brothers is this guy? Like, are they not understanding that one of the people that they train under literally looks like a goofball when he fight? Like, the last fight with where he got kicked in the eye. All right, whatever, but he's still, you know, we've had 2 standing TKOs from this dude, basically. This one, he falls down on his fucking knees and covers his head. And then he's giving the ref the thumbs up. Like, dude, you're literally, like, you're doing tornado drill. What are you doing?
He also had one of those where he had the hands out, like the horror movie girl that's getting attacked.
Dude, it's crazy to me. Like, I don't know. This guy here, he just doesn't do himself any favors. And missing weight, obviously. And then we'll talk about later, again, which another thing, we'll talk about it now since we're talking about him. What the fuck are you doing in your brother's corner after you just you just quit in your fight? Do you think he needs any advice from you?
Well, that's what I would say, is that it was, the gym it's a yin and yang type of thing. We know that there's always one better brother than the other one, and this is a very clear-cut example of that always being the case. It literally is one of those things of the sport that's like a tried and true rule. It's a hard and fast rule. One brother, any sibling pair, there's always going to be one that's leagues better than the other one, and this is just following the same rule.
Yeah, and so obviously with the chat talking about, or well, only Anakin. We'll talk about the post fight speech, of course.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. Yeah.
Going into talking about his mom in a trailer. Honestly, I was buying it. Not like I need to buy it like it was a fake story or anything, but like the emotion that he was giving it, he was doing exactly what he was planning to do. He was trying to draw sympathy from the crowd and get his 50K bonus. Somebody quoted it. Oh my gosh, somebody quoted it, and I didn't think about it until later. It was like, "My mom lives in a trailer, Dana. Give me the $50,000 bonus." I'm like, all right, that's pretty funny.
But I think that's a little bit harsh.
I know, but it's really funny stuff.
Yeah, you to bring it up. I mean, Padilla brings it upon himself the way that he did it. I would suspect. I don't have any problem with it, honestly, personally, because we know the situation with these fighters and the pay structure and all of this. We don't have to get into a whole conversation about fighter pay. What I think Padilla's fatal flaw with this whole thing is that you mention it one time and then you move on. You drop it as a little quick note there. Hey man, I really could use that 50K. Obviously, I just had a great win. And then you let it go on to the next thing, unless you are another fighter who's coming up in the next fight. And I'll talk about that when we get to it. But this one was like, he circled back. And that, I think, is the big problem, bro.
If you're going to forgot, I needed that 50,000.
Exactly. Yes. You say it one time and then you hope. If you start really dwelling on it, that's when you get the exact opposite of what you're looking for. But again, I do think it's unfortunate, because if that is the case, that, he was taking a good amount of damage in this fight. It was a good comeback victory. I mean, Zachary Reese had the same type of situation almost. I mean, and Zachary Reese didn't have to go through the same amount of striking. He was able to get McVeigh down in the beginning of the second round. You know what I'm saying? So
this struck a conversation with the community, because people were mad, like, why didn't he get the bonus? Dana's a piece of shit. What the fuck? And it's like, well, it's a performance bonus. Does he, if we start giving out bonuses just because everybody asks for it, that takes away from the people who actually perform for the bonuses. And then it leads to conversations. Well, we need bonuses for finishes. You should get such and such for a KO, such and such for a submission. But I don't know where I'm at on that. Again, I'm not the one that's going to be able to change it, but the fact that the performance did not get a bonus, if that's all that I'm looking at, is the performance and the bonus, do they correlate? No, this was not a performance of or fight of the night. Not either one of the options. It was not applicable. So
no, yeah, you make a good point about that. First of all, we used to have that. We used to have submission of the night, knockout of the night a long time ago, and that has not been that way for a while. And I think better off because of exactly what you said. It's a performance bonus. what we just outlined in this fight, what I, went a whole big long speech about with this fight was the fact that he savvy navigation, yes, fight IQ wise, very high. But what did he do? He allowed his opponent to punch himself and gas himself out. That does not equal up to you having the performance that earned the paycheck. It's not a navigation bonus, it's a performance bonus. So I do see that aspect of it, and I think that would be a good counter argument for anybody who thought that he deserved it. I'm sympathetic to the backstory. I am certainly sympathetic to fighters not getting paid enough, in the nature of this sport being one where the amount of money it brings in does not equal up to the amount that the athletes are paid. Again, separate conversation. However, you got to look at the reality of what this fight was. Was it worthy of a performance bonus? I also agree it was not.
Yeah. And back once again before we move on to this Bonfim brother, you just gotta call it, brother. Like, I mean, you just literally have to call it, because this is not an inspiring performance. This is the second time where I've seen you put your hands up and tell the ref to stop the fight. Like, and in this one specifically, you started out by doing the oh, and then you fell to the fucking ground, and then you're like, no, 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 I'm good, I'm good, I'm good, and then you're getting your head pounded in. Like, just no. I'm done seeing it. The Bonfim bros, they got sent to the apex for a reason. Both of them specifically. Like, come on, you're telling me the Brazilians don't care about them that much? Not this guy. I don't. When I see things like this, specifically when they own gyms or they're part of like the bigger gyms, like they're the head honcho there. Do the people there not like question like where they're getting their talent from? Like, I don't know. I guess it's all the same stuff, but it's like, me personally, if I saw my trainer, like this is my head coach, and I'm like watching him in the thing, and it's like I'm really there to get like a true, like I want to be the best. I'm training under these guys, and I'm watching who I'm training under as the best, go out in there and have a performance like this later on. It's like, that's not as inspiring as I was hoping it would be. That's just me being on the outside looking in, of course. Like, obviously, it's a brotherhood. You train together and stuff like that. But if you're one of these people, it's like dog eat dog world. It's like, I'm looking to be the best. If I'm a lightweight as well in this world, and I train with the Bonfim bros, maybe I'm not looking at them, but I'm comparing myself to them in the slightest. Like, maybe all I have to do is at least get to the finish line. I don't have to fall over and quit in these fights, and I'm doing better than the people who own the fucking gym, Like, it's just
Yeah,
my opinion.
perhaps it's a those who can't do teach kind of situation. Maybe.
Yeah, I hear you.
I don't know. Yeah, but I can certainly understand that perspective, though. So I guess you'd have to ask their students.
Yeah.
But I would. I don't know. It's one of those things. Like, maybe he can get some wins against some lower level guys, but you come in overweight, you're already handicapping yourself as far as any kind of support I would be giving goes, and then to have a person really figure you out, which is that's the biggest takeaway to me on this side. What we're saying about why Padilla did not deserve the bonus is also the reason that he deserved the win, was that he figured out the thing that was going to work and did it. So you got caught. You're caught with your pants down at that point. And again, with the weight miss on top of it, I would not be too upset if he ended up going somewhere else.
Yeah, 100%.
So all right. Well, moving on to somebody who did deserve a performance bonus. We're talking about Uros Medic versus Muslim Salikov. Now, this man, I mean, burying the lead a little bit or skipping to the dessert before the meat and potatoes. This is how you get on the microphone and ask for a performance bonus. You come through with the receipts after doing what he did in this fight.
I think this is, I brought this up earlier with the Hani Barcelos performance. This is one of those ones where you have an older fighter, and the moment that it goes south, it's all because of their age. Like, and you can't say anything more about this to Muslim Salikov. Like, any other performance, he would have been fine. But in just this moment right here, you see the age caught up to him. He gets cracked, and then he falls over, and there's not much more of a fight after that.
I don't buy that at all. I think you're way disrespecting Mr. Uros Medic and his skill in this fight and his power in this fight. If that's all you're taking away is, oh, you knocked out an old man, great job.
No, 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 no. And let me actually tell you, Uros Medic, I'm a big fan. I'm one of these people who actually roots for him. I've seen him lose to Miktabek, and that's okay. He doesn't have much grappling against a dude who wrestles cavemen. This guy Uros Medic, though, he's not somebody that is a rangy striker when it comes to his power. He will sit down on uppercuts, he will throw hooks that are like really tight, and he can drop bombs when it comes to that. This straight right that he hit Muslim with, it was more of like an off balance, like Muslim was falling backwards and tripping. It was like the hammer fist at the end that he caught him with that made Muslim like cower and stop fighting back. I don't think this was the cleanest knockdown on the feet that has ever been for Uros Medic. And there's going to be more because this dude, when he hits people, they don't fucking move. Whatever he wants to say, Jeremy Stevens, like, he's really, really technical on the feet. He's got a lot of power. When it comes to the wrestling, we've seen the deficiency. That's the only issue. And I think that you are just a big, big hater saying that I am not liking Uros Medic, because I saved this specifically for everybody out there. I wanted to let you guys know that we own the Serbian flag now.
Well, how about that? All right. Well, all right.
If you don't think we know, we know.
All right, fair enough. Well, I will certainly give you that. Another flag in the collect. Do you not have the Serbian flag right behind you currently on top of that one? Or
No,
that's a different.
That's
okay.
Portugal.
Oh, that's Portugal. Okay, great. Well, there you go. Yes, how about it? Serbian flag, indeed, flying right there on the screen for you, so you know Chase is about it. Yeah, no, I mean, look, Medic is as kill or be killed as it gets.
Like, never seen the judges.
Yeah, this guy, I mean, like, he is either going to knock you out or he is going to get knocked out, or, something bad is going to happen on the ground. Either which way, this guy goes out there to put his all into these fights. And I certainly respect that. What I always say about him is, God, if he only had a chin. I mean, like, this is the type of fighter that you want, a dude that's going to go out and put it all on the line every time that he's in there, kind of thing. Obviously has a power in the hands. I mean, I kind of jumped on you a little bit, but you made a great point that the jab that landed was not exactly a crazy power jab. It just started off the sequence, and then the end of the sequence was a hammer fist. It was really as easy as that. So maybe a little bit more credence to what you're saying about Salikov and the age, perhaps either that, or it could just be the amazing amount of power that Medic has. But either way, it's like he's kind of almost betting poison in that regard, because it's like, does he win or does he get brutally finished? It's a coin toss every single time. So this went his way, and well deserved. I mean, he's now on a little bit of a streak there, so good thing to see, and hopefully he can continue that. He's he's coming in there, like I said, really hot on the mic thereafter, saying that he deserves it. And I mean, really making a good case for that, bringing the receipts, as I had said. How long can it last is the only problem.
So after the fights, when they go backstage and they do like their extra press little moments, there was a good moment that Medic had. He was like, this fight right here, like, I was scared. Like, I was really fearful for what could happen in this fight, because Muslim Salikov, he's been fighting for longer than I've been alive. Like, he has more years in mixed martial arts than I have on this planet. So, like, that was worrisome to me, things like that. And he was just very, you always get those cliche lines where, like, you don't get bravery without fear. He was dropping some bars like that, but, like, I truly kind of believed it. He's like, I was having nightmares about this dude, because who knows how my career goes after Muslim Salikov. He could wheel kick me, and I'm just another highlight to this old man. But shout out to Medic. Shout out to the Doctor, which unfortunately is his nickname. Why is it not the instead of the, and his last name is Medic? That would have been better. But the Doctor, shout out to Medic, we love it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Uros the Medic works so perfectly, and to have it be the Doctor seems like an easily missed opportunity for no reason. But no, this was really nice. This was a solid full-on knockout win here. I mean, well, like hammer fist knockout, whatever, TKO, but still a very solid performance, very quick one round out of there. Thought he was good on the mic. I like the guy. I think he's got a personality that you want to root for. So I don't know how you strengthen your chin, but if he could just somehow figure out how to also not get knocked out, then he could really be a threat.
Yes, 100%.
All right, your co-main event. We had said last week, why was this the co-main event? I guess maybe now you see that it was the co-main event in order to prop
to get
up
us into the main event quicker.
Well, that, yeah, definitely that, and also probably to prop up Mr. Joseph Morales, because this was Joseph Morales versus Matt Schnell. We also had said, why did Schnell come back? I guess it was just to get a win over Jimmy Flick, because that is all that he has been able to accomplish, it would seem. This was a solid win for Morales. But what we had said too, and I think you make the greatest point about it, Chase, Morales continues to show why him being on the Ultimate Fighter was a complete undermining of the Ultimate Fighter.
Dude, that's actually a really good point you keep bringing up. Is like, how did they get away with this? They gave the dude with the biggest, whatever. Either way, this one, you go back, you go into this one. If it wasn't Matt Schnell, who consistently loses, you would have thought this fight was fixed. This dude put himself in a guillotine. Like, I just can't believe a dude
No,
who's a seasoned veteran. Seasoned
no.
veteran.
Look, that is correct that the guillotine was how it ended, but you got to give the flowers to Morales on that sequence. That was the last note that I had of the notes, was the transition from side control into Kimura attempt into crucifix into guillotine for the tap. That's what you take away from that. Yes, Schnell, there probably was a point in that chain of the chain wrestling where he should have been able to start navigating elsewhere, but really you should be given the credit where the credit is due to Morales on that one, because that is a beastly chain. Again, go back through those points that I just outlined point by point. Any one of those outside of the sequence is impressive in and of itself. You put them all together in a solid sequence, which is exactly what it was, unbroken like that. That's legitimate high level stuff.
Yeah, I agree. No, this one was definitely good, and I think this is what they were thinking. Is like Matt Schnell has been around the block long enough. Like he knows how to get a finesse his way out of most submission attempts. That it should be enough to get him back to the feet. I've seen Matt Schnell get knocked out by Steve Erceg. I was really thinking we were going to see him die to Morales on the feet, but the fact that Morales just did his fallback, get him down to the ground, sub him, it is good because it shows me that he's not playing around. He's here in his second run in the UFC, and he wants to go to the top. He's not going to come out here and take risks like, let me stand and strike with Matt Schnell and try to knock him out, which is what I thought he should have been doing. I thought he showcased that you're back with power. You already showcased you can sub people. You did your little triangle choke against Adiris. This one, go out here and knock Schmel out, just like, Steve Erceg could do it. I can do it, something like that. But this one right here, great performance from Joseph Morales, and it unfortunately doesn't do much because Matt Schnell is not very good.
Yeah, I mean, for Schnell to come back and this be second run after a very short retirement. I mean, now granted, it was kind of questionable whether or not it was actually a full-on retirement. They're saying, oh, he left his gloves in the cage, but that doesn't necessarily mean it. He didn't go through the whole speech and
He
all that
left
kind
one
of.
in the cage, so he could come back. Yeah.
Exactly. I pulled a little Tony action. Right. I mean, it was one of those types of deals where it was like, okay, we know what he was doing. Give me a fucking break. He was retired. He came back. I've always said that is a you're already setting yourself up for a problematic second run. And for that to be the case here, I think we're seeing it play out almost exactly as expected with that. And now you're seeing Morales, who is on his second run, but probably shouldn't have been in the first place. This is another one of those ones that's a little strange that he even got cut in the to begin with. If you go back and look at the record he had before he got cut, now you're seeing the results of him having, I guess, a little bit of time off and chance to prove himself again in a new landscape of flyweight. I think he's fitting right in, and Schnell is really this is the reap what you sow of how he navigated his career.
Shout out Anakin in the chat. Yeah, this should not have been the co-main event. Definitely shouldn't have
Yes,
been.
yes, I agree with that as well. We said that last week, and we were certainly proven not proven correct because, like I said, I think it might have been a good showcase for Morales. That Dom was saying on commentary, "Oh, flyweights need new names. We need fresh blood at flyweight." I'm like, we have Josh Van challenging for a belt coming up. I would think that there is a decent amount of fresh blood in there, but it never hurts. Flyweight still to this day the most competitive division in my estimation. So I'm always happy with more of the smaller guys who can, especially if you can finish. That's always a big plus at flyweight. Like you said, it would have been nice to see if he has power in the hands on top of that, to see just how well-rounded he is. And anytime you're getting knockouts at flyweight, that also speaks very high volumes. But we didn't see that here. They're just trying to set up Morales to be another bigger name flyweight and trying to jump him up rather quickly, I guess, in his second stint. So
Yeah.
it accomplished that goal.
Yeah, 100%.
And yes, and it is not lost on me that Morales did do the 6-7. Why did Morales do the 6-7? I don't know. I understand what the 6-7 thing is. I don't know why it is something that him and Chael Sonnen both felt the need to do at some point. Chael Sonnen doing it on Twitter, him doing it in the cage. You're very hip. You're very with it. You're one of the cool young people, Uncle
You
Chael and Joseph.
you may be more akin to know or notice when we were watching the little pre-fight tape where they're doing the little um, Joseph Morales did not blink once and his eyes were wide open right at the cat. Like, so, people in the call were speculating he might have been on something. Or maybe he just looks that way. I don't know. He
I
does have some crazy eyes. It's kind of,
I want to believe that he's just a big fan of the Yama show that I do, where I never blink.
there you go. Love it.
So that has to be it. So shout out to Joseph Morales. Thank you for watching, bro. Make sure that you like.
Oh,
Leave a
yeah.
comment next time.
Yes, sir. And
All
do the
right.
6-7 in the comment.
Yeah, there you go. Leave a 6-7 as the comment. That's your in right there. I'll know it's you for real if you do that.
True.
All right, and to round out this card, this is Gabriel Bonfim versus Randy Brown. I I I have a lot of thoughts. Why don't you start it off, Chase? I have a lot of thoughts about this one.
If you have a lot of thoughts, I'll make it short and sweet. First round did nothing. Second round, we got this crazy sequence where they both are prone. This is the crazy part. And just because I'm going to get quick into the meat and potatoes, and then we'll let you go on. They are both prone, and we have the ref jumping in to stop it. Yet I have a man lifeless on the mat just a little bit ago, and he gets an extra shot to his face. Like, it's just like, maybe if it was, you told me that it was Mark Smith in this fight too, and like maybe if it was the inconsistencies between refs, but it's like, how the like maybe rightfully so. That's how it should go. He's like, oh shit, I almost killed somebody earlier. Let me stop it early this next time. But is that how it should go? I don't know.
All right. Well, finish aside. We'll get to that in just a second. What I said about this fight, the actual fighting of this thing, was that this was a very poor display of distance management on Randy Brown's part. And on the opposite side, I thought that Gabriel Bonfim was managing the distance really well. I thought that this was a range management, stylistic clash, so to speak, if you want to look at it that way. Randy was overswinging at range and not using his kicks effectively. Bonfim was sliding shots through at a good striking range and then attacking the low kicks at to slow Randy down early on. Like I think that Bonfim, if you go back and look at where they were relative to each other, Bonfim kept a perfect range throughout the entirety of this fight to not only get the strikes off when he could, but also chop the legs away. And Randy was not doing a great job early of checking those kicks, so he allowed himself to get compromised and worn down early in this fight. I really like, so, we talk about the differences between the Bonfim brothers. That would be range management would seem to be one that I could give Gabriel Bonfim a big credit for here. Cause really throughout all of this, I kept saying, Randy, you are the taller, longer fighter. Why don't you take another step back and try to get some kicks off? I'll just stand here and allow my legs to get chopped away. There was one leg kick that he took that was so flush and so hard that the commentary winced. They were just like, "Oh, you can't be taking those," that type of thing. It's like, dude, yeah, you're right. You can't. And this is what he did throughout a lot of this. Finally, by the time he started checking them, it was already too late. I mean, and then of course what happened ended up happening. We talk about the finish a little more in depth, but really leading up to that point, I just kept thinking, Randy, there are adjustments that you need to be making specifically in the range department, given your natural assets. Both these guys are tall and long-ish. I will say that. I mean, Bonfim does have long legs as well. It might not have worked out 100% if he had made those adjustments. Obviously, we know where it went, but the attempt could have been there to adjust earlier in this fight, and you could have seen what might have happened as opposed to allowing all of what happened to happen.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, this one, I'm very happy that I don't like either of these fighters. Randy Brown, less of the two, I guess. Bonfim has definitely been, he's associated with that loser brother, so I can't really say too much about both of them. They're both not my favorites, but Randy Brown losing, That's fine by me. The way that it happened was kind of funky, was an interesting way because, a knee up the middle is fine, but the fact that you both fall from it is interesting because at the moment that it happens, you're like, did they knock each other out? Like, what just happened here? Like, and they both fall back, and then the ref is jumping in. Bonfim gets up first. Randy Brown doesn't have the initial get up instinct. His instinct is to cower up on the fucking ground. I've even said same thing. Nicholas Dalby drops him to his back, and what does he do? Lays on his fucking back until the end of the round. He's just got the instinct to turtle up. Ariel Helwani brought that up as well. The turtle up, and that's fine. That's some people's defensive mechanism. It's not my favorite in the sport, but it is a defensive maneuver. I would think in that situation he was defending himself. There could have been a little extra. He was going to get some extra shots, but as somebody who doesn't like Randy Brown, he could have taken those extra shots. I would have been cool with it.
Well, I mean, then if you're not a fan of Randy Brown, then you probably were a little okay with how the finish went, because not only was it the knee to the face, but it was also the kick to the nuts simultaneously. I don't know if you
Nice.
caught that, but yes, the knee. This is go back and rewatch the way that
Well,
he
I can
went
see
down.
it in the picture on the top right here where I was looking at that like, dang, like they really got a
Yeah,
screen. Yeah, you can see
yeah.
the foot touching his dick there.
Indeed, yeah, right over there. Yes, so he jumps up for the knee. That's how he ended up on his back too, Bonfim. He jumps up, the knee lands, and then kick directly to the balls. So I mean, I gotta believe that maybe there was a little two prong action going on there. Perhaps I want to give Randy Brown a little bit of the benefit of the doubt for that aspect of it. Vitz King did make a good point that like when the referee had stepped in, Randy Brown was looking at the opponent. He was looking at Bonfim. So it's like if he was there enough and also protesting immediately as well, probably could have let that thing go on for a couple of shots at the very least. So yes, I do think that this was an early stoppage for sure. But
But
yeah,
he
no,
was going to get those extra shots. I mean, it was going to end shortly after.
that's yeah, and that's the other side of it, of course. But yeah, knee plus dick kick plus early stoppage is definitely a major oof for this to be the main event of this card, and for this to be the way that we went out, considering that this was a relatively tame fight night. Otherwise, I would say, we didn't have too much weirdness. The judging was pretty okay on this one overall. Like, didn't need the judges for the main card, which was nice. This was what we have said, especially considering the Onama and Garcia card, is that like every once in a while it would be nice to just have a down the line no weirdness card. I think it'd be almost like a unicorn at this point. This was somewhat close to it. This fight ended up being the weirdness that still made it weird.
Yeah, 100%. Now, this card, after going through it, not as bad as I remember it being. Those two decisions, the women and some other decision fight it was just so grueling and just made my head hurt. These fights, the main card specifically, it was fine. The fact that Zach Reese was supposed to be on the main card, I believe. No, that had to have been something else. But either way, main card was really good.
Yeah, I think this turned out to be a pretty enjoyable one overall. Weirdness in the main event aside, it is kind of an interesting case now. I mean, you consider that a knockout win for Gabriel Bonfim, even with a conscious
Yes,
Randy Brown? So,
I
um,
say yes because this is like his first official like KO TKO. So like it's he got it. Like he did the knockout portion of it. I mean we just didn't need to see him follow up with it. Sure, we've seen a lot worse, and he could have went down there and maybe sat in full guard or something. Who knows what he could have done after that? But as of right now, he got him with the knee. Fair play. Get him
yeah,
his first TKO knockout, whatever you want to say.
most definitely that, and also just to highlight CTE over here saying that the visual of his head bouncing was also not a great look for why it all went down the way that it went down. So I mean, I guess you can factor that in too as well. And yes, to be clear, yes, 100% knockout. Let him have it. Absolutely, of course he has it. So that all being said, though, what do you want next for a Gabriel Bonfim is the last thing that I would want to round up this thing with, because it's like he's got the fight with Wonder Boy that was very underwhelming to everybody. So this is maybe a little bit of a tick up, but then you got weirdness with this one a little bit.
And then
I
you got
don't.
to bring his shitty brother with him.
No, he's got he can stay in the back,
All right, all right.
or at least he can stay in the corner just cheering in his sweater. Yeah.
I don't know, dude. Actually, I am curious. I want to ask you a question about this because you brought it up. So the knockout happened, and then the dick kick. Do you think he woke up and was having pain in his private parts, like, or did the pain receptors, did they cancel out? Like,
Oh, I think he probably was feeling both. One thing I brought up on the watch along, and I mean, I hate to be that guy, but I'll at least put it out here for the sake of the conversation is there not some little portion of Mark Smith who might have been correct in stopping action at that point and saying, "Hey, that was an illegal shot," even if
mm,
it, even if it might have landed after the knockout shot, but a legal shot is an illegal shot.
true,
Give the guy the 5 minutes.
true facts.
Again,
Now,
I'm not saying that I think that that should have been that case. I'm just saying that devil's advocate. How wrong would he have really been? That was a direct. If bro, I would bring it back up to the to up here. You see how direct that was. I mean, it
mhm,
was right on the money. So
yeah,
you know,
yeah, that is interesting. That is interesting. But yeah, I would just hope that he did not wake up and be like, "What happened? Why does my dick hurt? Like, fuck!"
he
Like,
never went out though. I mean, like he might have been
no,
out for a
dude, he
split.
was unconscious, man. That was
Maybe
pretty
for that was a
bad.
flash knockout then at most. I mean, he was looking right at his opponent when he was on the ground.
That's
So
because his eyes were open when he was looking. I mean,
and
that's
that's always the thing because I tried to make that case to Vitz and he wasn't having that. So he was like, oh, he's conscious enough to be looking at his opponent. I'm like, well, sometimes you can't really tell.
right.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. Whatever. Again, this is the weirdness that makes the fight night still weird, even if we had a pretty tame one otherwise.
hmm Yeah.
So I don't know. Either way, that is. I guess that's where how we can end it up. I mean, well, so I know. What's the question then? Is what for bomb theme next?
What is next for Bonfim? Um, Let us see.
It's got to be somebody low rank, right? Maybe what like whoever's number 10, number 11, maybe, and because he's going to be he's 15. I wanted to say somewhere around there, maybe 14.
this is your moment for you to have your big spotlight in the chat. If you are out here listening right now, go ahead and let us know what you think Bonfim is going to do next, and we will highlight your chat right here, right now, just for a moment. So you have about 30 seconds to go ahead and get it done before we move on.
Yeah, well,
Time's
Anakin coming
ticking.
in saying Buckley next.
All
I'm not
right.
mad at it. I'm not
All
mad at
right.
it. I think that might be a pretty decent fight and probably a good win for
I was
Buckley.
thinking the next one that he just said. Yeah, I was thinking
Oh,
Morales possibly versus Brady loser. Yeah,
oh,
that's
you just
nice.
want to feed this man to the wolves.
Yeah,
I
for
can
sure.
appreciate that.
Yep.
Fair enough. I'm good with either of them. So, all right. That all being said, that is UFC Fight Night. Bonfim versus Brown. After talking it through, Chase, what are your final thoughts on this one?
It was okay. It was fine. Nothing too crazy. Obviously, we got a lot of finishes, but back to the question that I was asking potentially at the beginning. Did all the finishes amalgamate to a good card for you? Is that what made this a good card?
Um, Good, not great, but still, yeah, I'd say that this was good enough.
Because of the finishes.
I mean, yeah, I'd say so. Sure, yeah. I mean, that
Okay.
main card being all finishes, I can't really ask for much better than that. I think
Jeff
there were.
Neal's a good option here for CTSE.
That's actually
CTSU.
that's the best option, honestly. If you want to actually go for like an accurate like one that like would be in like the right progression, that's
Yeah,
yeah.
that's
Jeff
pretty good.
Neal is a really good option right there
Yeah.
for Bonfim.
Oh, sorry.
But
Go ahead.
no, I mean, yeah, I would say that like compared to what it could have been, yeah, I would say that this was a good one. I thought it was certainly passable enough. Not a lot of stakes, like you had said, but I don't really consider cards that way. That doesn't factor into my enjoyment of the fights themselves. There were a couple of very good standout ones. The ones that detracted from that did not detract so much, and they were also earlier on the card. So once you got Cavalcante and Bueno Silva out of the way, I was pretty okay with the rest of how this all went.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, I mean, would I give it super high marks? No, I mean, I'd probably give it maybe a 6.5 out of 10, but, still that's compared to what we could have.
Yeah, true. I would probably say seven. Little
Okay.
seven, high sevens. Yeah,
Well,
for
then
sure.
there
I
you
mean,
go. How
you
about
know,
that? See, you come around and you like it even more than me at
true.
the end.
Well, you sway me on a lot of them.
There you go. I love it. So, all right, and that is that. So let's move on down the line here to one of, if not the most anticipated cards. So definitely the most anticipated for the rest of this year, but possibly on paper at least could be a card of the year contender. This is UFC 322, Della Maddalena versus Islam Makhachev versus Makhachev. What are you thinking here?
Whew. Um, Well, this one is going to be tough. This is a tough one to believe, that we are actually getting to 322. We actually have the main card of Jack Della Maddalena and Islam Makhachev, but I have to go with Islam. I mean, he's proven he is he's going to be the double champ. Whether you want to believe that he has two consecutive belts or not, that's up to you. But Islam is going to be a double champ, two-time champ, whatever you want to say. And I don't know if Jack's going to be okay. Actually, no. There was a clip that came up on Twitter, and it was what the fuck is the dude's name? The CJI guy.
Greg Jones.
Craig Jones was showing Jack Della how to get out of the choke that Khabib submitted Conor McGregor with. And when you watch the video, I don't know if you remember back to DDP and his fucking coach, where all they did was they were showing DDP getting up out of the most lackluster takedown attempts ever in that video. And I'm like, he's fucking screwed. Like, are you serious? Here goes fucking Craig Jones, showcasing his amazing grappling where he just shrugs off, apparently, Khabib and his choke. He just shrugs him off his shoulder. And it made me so mad. It made me so mad because the caption's like, he's teaching him how to get out of all these. It's like, dude, he literally did nothing. He literally showed him nothing. You think you just shoulder shrug Khabib off when he's got a fucking neck crank? No. It's not fucking happening. Same thing with DDP and his fucking coach. You think just training for regular double legs is like that's gonna be your key. It's like, do the same training, just do it more. Like, no, like, it's not the same. Like, and the fact that Jack Della has this dude thinking that he's gonna train him to counter every move that the Dagestani wrestlers and grapplers have. I mean, I just don't fucking buy it, bro. Craig Jones might be able to do it, but Jack Della's not Craig Jones. Like, he might be able to showcase and teach him what he wants, but implementing it and doing it, it's a different thing. And Jack Della's good, but if Craig Jones is the one who has the answers, can you really pass everything down to somebody else? I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think that is a fine point about the preparation element of it. What I've said about Jack Della Maddalena, and I've gotten a lot of opposition from his fans, and I understand the appreciation of him. Boxing is as advertised. I certainly agree with everybody when it comes to that aspect of things. What I've seen is a very determined fighter. I think that Jack Della Maddalena will never quit on himself or in a fight. I give him 100% credit for that. But that comes with a lot of times that it has been a narrow escape from the jaws of defeat. It has been a very close decision at times. I've seen a lot of I have not seen clear cut dominance out of Jack Della Maddalena. And you can say, yeah, oh well, he did that to Bilal. Bilal was choosing to stay on his feet and play Jack's game for a lot of that fight. Oh, well, he stuffed the takedowns. Bilal was not. He was trying to prove a point and was outproven in that point in that fight, in my estimation. Maybe there was times where Bilal was putting all of his full back into the takedown attempts and Jack was getting it. Those seemed to be later in the fight, if I recall correctly. Maybe you can find a couple of times that Bilal was trying to get him down and couldn't. I'll give you that. But my point is that what I have seen out of Jack is times where he has not looked superhuman. What I have seen out of Islam Makhachev is superhuman. A
True.
lot of the time, you can go through it. People will say, "Oh, his last couple of fights, well, they were padded, because it's where Moicano, Dustin Poirier, sure." But I believe that Makhachev could do the same things to anybody. So to say that that was padding because of those people, that's not his fault that those went the way that they did. He didn't choose to fight Justin Poirier. He didn't choose for Arman Sarukian to do what he did and pull out of the event. He would have done those things to whoever you put in front of him. Islam Makhachev is the best pound for pound fighter in the world, in my opinion. He is going to win this fight in my gut.
Yeah, I would hate to be wrong about this one, but I'm gonna go ahead and have to go ahead and say that Islam is gonna get this one done too. Jack Della's game plan, and a lot of people that root for Jack Della, they are confident that he's gonna be able to explode from the bottom position like he was able to with Bilal and Gilbert Burns, and get out of these full mount positions. If you're banking on that, take whatever you need to cope, because if brother is in full mount, or mounted in any fashion, and you're banking on him exploding out of it to get out of that position, he's already 2 to 3 steps behind where he should have been. You should not let them get to that position. And I get that that is a skill that he has, and I've seen him showcase it against great wrestlers like Bilal. But I'm not going to go ahead and bank on that working against Islam Makhachev. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, I want to highlight this too, because this is another part of the narrative that I've seen going around a lot. JDM is bigger and stronger and more powerful. He's CTE saying this in terms of Dustin Poirier, but I've been seeing that about Jack Della compared to Islam. Islam is 1 inch shorter than Jack Della Maddalena and coming in at the same weight that he walks around at. He's going to maybe put on a little bit more muscle and cut down to make this, like he's not he doesn't have to make weight. He's going to put on a little bit more muscle and come in cut off of that just a little bit bulkier. I think that this is going to be very even when it comes to all of the physical attributes that have given Jack Della Maddalena a little bit of an edge on some of his previous competition. I don't think that Islam comes in at a massive physiological detriment in this fight. I think that it's going to be a lot more even than people are making it out to be right now. And then you have to rely on the skills. And again, I give Jack all the credit in the world for being a tenacious fighter who will not give up on himself. Islam makes people give up whether they liked it or not.
Yeah, I don't know where this one's going to go. I'm going to go ahead and take Islam over 2.5.
I like that. Yeah, I think that that's probably a good call. I would not be surprised if this goes to decision. Actually, I know a lot of people. Oh, he's going to chin him. It only takes one. Look, if that ends up happening, if you have a double up on your book where it's Jack Della by knockout or Islam by decision, I think that that's very likely. I think Islam possibly by submission also makes sense as well. Pick one of those double ups that makes the most sense to you. But either way, I in my heart of hearts, until I see, this is always how I look at these things. Until I see otherwise, when I'm seeing consummate greatness, which is what I have seen out of Islam Makhachev, I have to go with that until better information proves itself. I have seen Jack Della Maddalena on the verge of defeat. I've seen a fight where I truly believe that he did lose and still got the nod. You know what I'm saying? These are not things I can say about Islam Makhachev besides from one knockout that he had very early in his career and never again since then.
Well,
So
he arguably lost to Volk, but that's another story for another day. But
right, and arguable still is the key word to that. So
hmm,
you know, I'm just saying here, people, this is how I gotta be looking at it. If you think otherwise, then best of luck, and may the best man win in this. I like both guys. I'd be happy if Jack is the one to dethrone Islam. That would definitely put him in a category that I never have put him in before. So prove me wrong on that one, Jack Della Maddalena. But until then, gotta go with Islam.
yeah, I also like both of these guys. I think it would be more interesting if Jack Della actually gets this one done because wow, he really is the one to beat. To finish off Habib. Um, but if Islam wins, it just adds to another layer of this dude's dominance. The last thing that I want to ask you is Jack Della possibly going to come out to some more ACDC. Do we think he's going to go with TNT again, or do we think he switches it up?
God, I hope so. If you're gonna do the
They're from
ACDC,
Australia, buddy.
that's what I was gonna say. The only time it's okay is if you're from Australia, but if you're gonna do it, go with a deeper cut. Come out to Big Balls, my friend. That is the one ACDC song that no one has walked out to that would be the GOAT status move. So come out to Big Balls if you want to come out to ACDC, and then you show that you actually have them.
Yeah, I definitely can see that. That'll be good. I like it. Good
So.
option.
Yes, and then we'll hear Islam Makhachev coming out to some banger from Dagestan that you're never going to find out the title of because
Hell yeah.
how could you?
It's just horns and slide whistles and shit.
He needs to come out to that same shit that Ankalaev was coming out to. Do you remember Ankalaev's walkout music? That shit was
Nope.
that bro. It is some next. I think on the Yama episode, I said it sounded like he was. It was like an audible like noise weapon that he was coming out
Nice.
to. It sounded like complete racket, but interesting. I guess I should say to be culturally sensitive.
Hell yeah.
All
Definitely.
right. Co-main event of this thing, highly anticipated women's championship fight here. Valentina Shevchenko going up against Zhang Weilei, two of the best women ever to compete in the octagon. Chase, what do you think about this?
This one is going to be interesting. Wei Lei being an underdog for the second time in her most recent two fights is damn near criminal, but Shevchenko does have 8 rubies on her UFC belt, so it's hard to say that either one of these women deserve to be an underdog. That's why I think the line being close is very fitting. These are both women who are not necessarily in their physical prime age, but they are, in their dominance. Like they are still continuing their reign. And I just think Shevchenko is not going to have the same game plan that she had against Manon. She's somebody who tailor makes her game plans. She fights a little differently and has things going for her in different ways. With this fight, we are not going to see her stand very stationary and do her Muay Thai like she was able to do against Manon. Because once Manon was down, there was no threat to her. She could just stand there and just fend herself off. She wasn't going to actually lose the round after she was up. And, you know, and then with Grasso, with her new element that she could just lay and pray and then get a decision. Shevchenko, I just hope that she's got a game plan for Waylay that's going to be very, very good. Because, dude, I don't know. It's actually just what I actually think is key is the records are just so close. Neither of them are actually going to, lose stock from this. It's going to be a banger of a fight. Just know that when the fight's over, we still have many more fights for each of them to come. And I think that's just going to be really, really fun to see. So I don't know if I really want to pick. I'm going to go with Weilei, though. I'm going to go with Zhang Weilei. That is my girl. Shout out China. We got it up in the flag area somewhere.
Fair. Yeah. I mean, I think that the lay and pray aspect of it is what's going to be, I think, one of the more interesting elements of this, because Zhang Weilei is not someone that you can lay and pray on.
Hmm.
So if Valentina thinks I mean, not that she thinks that she can just go in there and do that. Obviously, she's not that type of fighter. But if that is something that she's maybe going to fall back on if things start getting hairy for her, then I think that this becomes a lot tougher of a fight than she's anticipating. I would think that Valentina wants to keep this on the feet as long as humanly possible, because Zhang Weilei on the ground is going to be a big problem for any human being, man or woman, man, beast, or alien. I would think that is going to have a problem on the ground with Weilei. And Valentina is, I think, potentially that's the one place where she ends up getting overwhelmed by Zhang Weilei. Now, I mean, on the feet, we saw Zhang Weilei get head kick knocked out by Rose Namajunas in the past. This
Early stop.
well, fair, maybe. She was out pretty cold on that one, but either way, whatever the circumstances may be, I just think that the striking is going to lend itself to to Valentina Shevchenko. I think that the ground game is where the grand equalizer becomes Zhang Weilei's territory, and you just don't want to go there with her. You don't want to let Zhang Weilei have the fight that she wants. I think that's where she wants that fight to go. So I'm hoping for Valentina's sake that she can keep it on the feet. It's a long fight to be trying to keep it on the feet, though, for the entirety of it. So that, I think, is why I am also leaning towards Zhang Weilei on this one. I Yeah, I mean, I kind of have to. I love Valentina Shevchenko. She's, I think, the one of, if not the greatest woman fighter of all time, right there up with Amanda Nunes, just a little bit underneath her. So I mean, I
Right up
want
there with Joanna.
well, Queen Joanna, sure. um, yeah, definitely better than Joanna. But I mean, look, what I'm saying is that I acknowledge her greatness. I think that Zhang Weilei offers a lot of problems to Valentina Shevchenko. If she had problems with Alexa Grasso, she's going to have problems with Zhang Weilei. Now, granted, you could say, oh, well, she just laid and prayed through Alexa Grasso in the third fight. This is not that, though. You know what I mean? Like, Zhang Weilei is not that. She's not going to allow that. I think that, if anything, the comparison is much closer to the first fight. That's the problem.
What I think is key is that when you see Valentina fight now in her last recent performance, you could tell that it's stripped down of a lot of athleticism from what she used to have in her game. She's a lot slower. It's not a lot. Like, she's still very agile for her age, but you can tell there's just not what it used to be, because Valentina, believe it or not, was fucking amazing. Like, she's one of the, like you said, one of the greatest of all time. But as you see her now, she's slimmed down to a great fighter. She's not the Hall of Famer athlete performance that we're going to get anymore. Zhang Weilei, on the other hand, from her most recent performances, she's looked fucking like on it. Like I don't think this is a slowing down. This is not the decline Waylay. Like I still think we're on the way up for her. Like she's just been dominating all of her performances and being disrespected by the numbers of Vegas. Like I mean, they truly think that she's gonna be coming down soon, but I'm not seeing it physicality wise. I mean, she's only getting in more shape. She's only going now. She's going to be in a more comfortable weight class for her, um, and we'll see if the size actually matters or not. You know, it's going to be interesting. Is all that I'm all that I'm saying.
Then I got to ask at the very least then, ring rust and outside of the cage activity is going to play any part in this at all for her, considering she hasn't been around for a while and also was doing a little bit of acting, I believe, right? She was in a movie at one point.
Yes, I think this is added to the list. Forgot about
Added
that.
to the list, yes.
Um, yes, this is definitely things that could be issues, but from her most recent performance, she took a lot of time off from UFC 300 and she came back in fine. So I'm all right with this.
Yeah.
And especially if she's willing to just jump right into this belt opportunity against a Hall of Famer like this after all the inactivity. I don't think we said it about Bulgarian. He's somebody that's not active but shows up and he doesn't seem to ever be affected by the ring rust. Obviously, we were sadly mistaken on the context there.
Yeah.
But
Little extenuating circumstance on that one.
but I think Zhang Weilei is going to be all right.
Yeah, I tend to agree as well. I mean, I don't want to broadly stereotype, but the discipline of the camp I think also plays a big part in that. I don't think that she allows herself to get undisciplined, but I would say the same thing about Valentina Shevchenko. She's one of the most disciplined fighters, man or woman, that you could ever name. All her life is training, her life is fighting, her life is getting better at mixed martial arts, and competing at a high level. So I think that this is about as really as even as you can get. The fact that this is not a pick'em is a little bit crazy in that regard. I think that the weight class makes that okay, but yeah, this is a tough one to call, but my gut is leaning towards Zhang Weilei pulling the minor upset on this one.
100%. I think the last thing that I want to say is something funny that Valentina said one time, and I think about it often sometimes, is, women are quirky. She said, some women like flowers on the first date. I like knives and guns. And I was like, all right, all right.
Yes, and then you hear multiple shorts being sullied after a statement like that. So
Exactly. That's why I bought a sword, everybody. So if you're ever wondering what I have for Valentina,
bingo, I love it. Well, hopefully she'll get the message at some point. But somebody out there make that happen for Chase. But yeah, all right. So there you go. I guess we're both going Zhang Weilei on this one.
yeah,
All right. We've agreed on the last two, but as you may know, we are streaming to individual channels, assuming that everything's working correctly. Like the stream that you think has the best opinions about these fights, even if we are currently in lockstep, because perhaps this next one we might not be. This is Sean Brady versus Michael Morales.
we are truly going to find out if Michael Morales has elite takedown defense. Now, when it comes to Carlos Praetos, we've seen him against enough people that I would say at this point he has good to great level takedown defense. Yeah, Ian Gary got him down, but Ian Gary gets down a lot of people. At least MVP, when MVP was against Ian Gary, I mean, he was to his back. I mean, and he spent a lot of time there. At least with Carlos Praetos, we had a couple different rounds where it was on the feet for a good amount of it. And then he was able to switch switch the tides later on. Sean Brady, is he going to be able to wrestle Michael Morales, or is Michael Morales going to be able to shrug him off with the single leg attempts? I don't know. I really don't know, but I would like for Michael Morales to. Well, let me say this. I would like for him to go ahead and win, of course, by finish, because that would be somebody that I'm enjoying in the higher ranks in the rankings. But the issue is he's kind of just too similar to Carlos Praetos, and like there can only be one. Like I kind of like Carlos Praetos already, but like brother, you're not him. Let's not get too ahead of ourselves. Like if you think you're gonna be the tall, slender South American guy who just comes in here and knocks people out with your long arms and your crafty, striking, we're gonna have to cool the jets. If you get out here and you knock out Sean Brady, I mean, this is a dude who's been finished by Bilal Muhammad. So everybody who goes against him, in my opinion, you are going in here and you have to finish this guy. Because if not, if you get a decision against him, even it's like you're still being questioned. If you beat Sean Brady, it has to be by finish because somebody who as feeble and as not dogged as Bilal Muhammad, uh, I don't know. It's just crazy. Michael Morales, you better finish this, and because Carlos Praetus, in my opinion, would. So that's just all that I would say.
So you're saying that Michael Morales is fighting for the chance to be akin to Carlos Praetis with what you're saying.
He's fighting to be Ian Gary's son potentially in this matchup. That's all that I'd say.
I mean, I want to believe that there's a little bit more to Michael Morales than that would lead one to believe, but I do think that Sean Brady is the biggest litmus test for that because Sean Brady has one of those game plans that you know exactly what it is, and it's your job to figure out how not to fall victim to it. And that's the $1 million question. Will he fall victim to it? Um, I'm kind of in the same camp with you on this one. I guess we're agreeing on a lot of these things. It's like yeah, is Michael Morales more fan friendly? 100%, of course. I mean, Sean Brady is going to grab you. He's not going to let go of you. He's going to wrestle you here, there, everywhere. It's going to be one long round of a lot of pick up and drop off. You know what I mean? That's just how he's going to do things. It is Michael Morales' job definitely to thwart that, but there can be more than one in this division. And if Michael Morales is going to be that, this is the time to prove it. I think that it is possible. I think that it is possible. It is Sean Brady. He is as elite as it gets at what he does. Michael Morales, like we have seen big guys that have tried to get their hands on him before. Have they been as good as Sean Brady at it? That, of course, is the big question there. And a lot of questions regarding like the biggest issue with this that makes it very hard to put a definitive prediction on it. I would say that, if you're from betting terms, just, definitely go over 1.5, I think is probably smart unless Michael Morales really is that guy and he gets the knockout early. That being said, I want to believe in Michael Morales. So maybe my heart is picking a little bit more than my brain, but I'm thinking that Michael Morales pulls off the upset and finishes Sean Brady.
Yeah, I'm not too sure, but if I'm gonna listen to myself from the previous weeks, South American striker, 18-0, probably not a lot of cans by my assumption if they keep winning against people that are at the UFC level and they haven't lost yet. I mean, I don't know. I can't really say. And listen, I know you guys are going to go out and find receipts, literally in quotations. Nobody's going to do this. But you guys are going to, know that I've always said fade the person that has the undefeated record because that's a target on their back. It's going to come. You're not going to finish your career undefeated. So you might as well assume they're going to lose now because then there's more for them to gain after. Michael Morales is somebody who's 26. If he loses this fight, 18-1, gold is coming for him after he gets a good experience of a loss. This potentially could be the one where it works in his favor in that regard. He could come out here and have a good hard 3 rounds and he loses by decision. Big whoop. Goes on to the next one. Now he has good experience against a great grappler in the division and he can take that on to the next one and he's got the the relief of like I lost. Now I don't have to worry about losing for the rest of my I've already done it. It's nothing to me, It didn't ruin my career, whatever you want to think about. So I think this is be a good one.
Well, I think you just convinced me. Then maybe it is Sean Brady that's going to be able to.
Okay.
Because I mean, Sean Brady is just that good at what he does, though. You know what I mean? Like that is the
But Bilal
thing.
is better.
Bilal, yeah. I mean, yeah. But he didn't need to, though. I mean, it was stopped on the feet, if you remember.
Right, that's what I mean though. It's like Bilal is better at the wrestling, if by what you took from that. But what I was saying is Bilal is better because he finished him on the feet. And that's something that Bilal just is only done once. And it's like that's a dude who, again, when it comes to somebody like Daniel Marcos, another dude, it's like Decision Merchant randomly gets a submission. It's like something is up with the person who gets finished by the person who's never finishing people. I don't know. It's just the way that I would look at it.
All right. And I reconvinced it. I'll stick with my guns and stay with Morales.
I was trying to get you off board here, but it's all right.
I want to believe. I think that that's really, this is one of the ones where I got to go against my own advice and follow the heart on this one, just
Mhm.
because I think that, Michael Morales is another one of those guys. We talk about the dudes that you chart from the beginning of their career. Seen every one of his fights in the UFC, and I always thought that this could be potentially the dude here putting on for Ecuador. Got a whole country on his back right now. I'm
Yeah,
I'm thinking that he might be the one. So, but you do make a good point that if he is not the one in this fight, does not drop his stock almost in the slightest. I would say he comes back,
yeah.
gets another nice win,
Even
continues
if
on.
even if it's a shitty performance, it's like, well, Sean Brady's one of the best grapplers, blah 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 in the division. It's like, that loss won't age bad, whatever you want to say. There'll be plenty of excuses for Michael Morales, which I don't have a problem with. He's gonna have to learn eventually what a loss feels like, and hopefully it's not him getting flatlined in whatever performance that's at the top of the game for him. This is a good performance where he's not gonna get flatlined. So if he gets wrestled, figure it out. Take 3 rounds. If you don't, big whoop. We'll figure it out next time.
Well, and also, the other thing too, we all of this conversation that you and I have been having has been basically about Michael Morales. This is also a good opportunity for Sean Brady, like every fight that he is in, to show a little bit of versatility. I mean, like, come out here and strike a little bit if you're actually about it like that. Like, I mean, do something. This would be a really tough opponent to try to do that against, but what a statement it would be if he was able to actually land some heavy shots on this guy.
Yeah,
I don't think it's going to happen. I'm just saying Sean Brady ends up in these conversations because Sean Brady is one dimensional. Is that one dimension very, very good? Absolutely. I think he's great at what he does, but this becomes the conversation when you are a one trick pony. So you can't really be too mad at it.
yeah, 100%.
So, all right. Moving on down the line, man, this card is excellent. Leon Edwards versus Carlos Praetis, who we were just talking about. What do you think here? I think a lot of people have been going for Edwards on this one.
Yeah, I mean, when you go back to Leon, you think about how technical his striking is, how defensive his striking can be, how defensively sound his striking can be specifically. He is going to be able to hold his own when it comes to not getting finished in the first round, I guess is, the best way that I'll say it. But I still think I see Carlos Praetis chipping away at him. I mean, he's just too versatile when it comes to the striking. He pushes the pace, and Leon Edwards is just, we've seen what kind of mentality he comes from. Excuse me. I mean, I've seen plenty of times this dude look like he's lost the fight before it's even over, and that's a big issue. Carlos Praetis, he was willing and ready to go ahead and try to finish Ian Gary in the fifth round, and that shows me something. And even after that, he came back, and he's still one of the only nerds that has a win on their record, currently. So I don't know. He's just built different, in my opinion. He's somebody that, when it comes to the cigarettes and the alcohol, it just builds to the lore. And we don't even talk about that anymore because that's just part of who he is. And by the time he's a Hall of Famer, we will remember, like, that's what got him to be great. Those are just the things that he did. And, some great people can do certain things and just be great at it. He was able to knock out Leon Edwards after 6 cigarettes and 2 shots of malt liquor. Whatever you want to say the story is, that's what's going to happen. And I hope it's very easy for Carlos Praetis because I don't want to see Leon dance around and leg kick for 3 rounds. But
Yeah, I mean, this goes to what I say about the arc of this sport a lot because we were talking about this on the watch along for the last event. I when I chart the progression of a career, Leon Edwards has done it all. He's reached the top. He has completed the hero's journey when it comes to this sport, and now he is on the portion that is on the other side of that. It is very rare, very very rare, really, that you see a resurgence when you've already been on the other side of the hump. I'd say that someone like Kamaru Usman is maybe possibly bucking that trend to an extent. There's a couple of people that you might be able to name, but it's those are the exceptions to the rule. Leon Edwards just does not strike me as the type of person that achieves that. We've seen too many tells, I would say, even as champion. I mean, sometimes like the victories that he had were not necessarily like these world ender dominant victories that make you say, man, he is him. That is the dude that we always thought he was going to be. That, in that period of time when he was waiting to get his title shot, like that would be the thing that we were all waiting for. You know what I mean? At the end of that road, like he just sort of was himself throughout all of that. And then this is the other side of what happens when that gets figured out. So Carlos Freitas is the exact type of fighter that continues to figure that out. He's dynamic, he is strong, he is creative, he is all of the things that beats a Leon Edwards in my estimation, even as the champion. So like now Leon Edwards on the other side of it, having already completed the arc, I don't see Leon Edwards having a clear path to victory as much as people want to believe in him. I just don't.
I think we get some sort of TKO situation where Leon doesn't necessarily go out, but he doesn't return enough fire. I don't know. I can just see Praetus just teeing off on him. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, because I mean, like if you think about the things that Leon Edwards is good at, great takedown defense. Carlos Freitas probably not worried about that too much. Striking on the outside, Carlos Freitas can get past that. I mean, we've literally seen this guy knee people to death, just by breaking through their outside game. I mean, that was the Leech, the exact thing that happened to him. So, I mean, like a lot of the things that Leon Edwards does well in this fight, I just think that Carlos Freitas is very well equipped to handle and to counteract. And, and then you chart that throughout the course of a 3-round fight. It's just I don't think that I mean okay, I'll say it like this: if Leon Edwards is going to win this fight, he has to be dominant early and consistently, and that I don't think he can do.
I remember, I don't know if this is actually true, but I was pretty confident that the first potential finish of Leon Edwards' career could come by Sean Brady, and then the submission actually happened. I think the potential second finish of Leon Edwards' career is going to happen this Saturday. Carlos Freitas is going to get the first TKO finish, and I can just totally see Leon just having that look on his face, like, what else can you say? And then, he'll get on the mic and have to talk about, it's going on to the next time, guys. I got to worry about next time. I don't care. Praetus going to go ahead and win this one.
I am in lockstep with you on this one. So Carlos Freitas, lock it in.
Yeah.
All right. Down the line here. This is an interesting one. Beneil Dariush versus Benoit Saint Denis. I mean, we know what Dariush does. He's another guy that has a very locked-in style. However, also has some knockouts on the record too. So I mean, it's not like you kind of put him in a box in your mind, but does have a couple of at least a little bit of power in the hands. Benoit Saint Denis, you know what his skill set is.
Yeah, I know people want me to believe that Beneil, he's got the skill set that could have beat Islam at one time or something. Not it. Not it. Even though Moicano lost to him, and I was very high on Moicano beating him, saying there was never going to be a day where Dariush was going to beat Moicano, anything like that. I know Moicano beat Benoit, but I like Benoit, and he's a younger guy in this game, and I'm going to be completely biased. We're taking my boy from France. We're taking Benoit Saint Denis.
Fair. Dariush has had just kind of a bum hand in this sport, and a lot of times I would say he's one of those guys that's a very hard worker and extremely skilled, and I don't think really gets enough credit for those things. He's a guy that's gotten shuffled around based on factors that are outside of his control, all of that kind of stuff. A lot of the problem becomes when you don't cultivate like those wow factor elements, and that I think is a at least career wise why Beneil Dariush is kind of where he is. Benoit Saint Denis, on the other hand, win, loser, or otherwise, this dude has wow factors in his fights. The dynamism, the dynamic element for Benoit Saint Denis, I think, is going to be there. If you're going to go with Beneil Dariush, I would say by sub is probably how it will happen. I just don't think that he's going to be able to do the things that Moicano was able to accomplish. I don't think he's going to be able to grind on Benoit, and he's not going to be able to soften him up enough with the striking to get him to that point of wearing down. Benoit Saint Denis comes out and overwhelms Beneil Dariush in a way that does not allow for Dariush to get his game plan off.
Yeah, I don't know what Benoit's going to do to win this one. I can probably assume it's going to be something along the lines of him putting one hand up and reaching down with the other one for single legs and just charging forward like he normally does. But I think it's going to work. People are going to not believe it because Beneil's got this good wrestling. But I think Benoit's going to get it done in the wrestling.
Fair. I mean, that's a lofty claim. I'm thinking Benoit by decision is what I'm going to go with. I know that might not be what everybody would want out of this fight, but I think that if Benoit Saint Denis can come out strong, which you know that he's going to be swinging from the second this thing starts, lay the shots on, pepper up Benil Dariush, get him to the point where he has to wrestle, then it ends up being a little bit more of clinching without any actual submission threat. Ends up going to decision that way with Benoit just banging on the side of his head for 2 rounds.
100%.
So, all right, on the prelims here, my boy Bo Nickel, that everybody loves so much, huge fan favorite Bo Nickel, is going up against Rodolfo Vieira, who I actually am a big fan of lately, especially. I think his striking has improved tremendously, and I actually really like this fight, even if everybody hates my boy Bo.
I also am one of those people who hate Bo, but I will go ahead and say Bo Nickel submission is probably what I'm going to go with on this one. I think Bo Nickel is going to showcase the American wrestling is still somewhat kicking, and I think he just gets an easy RNC somehow.
I think that you've used the term Vegas dangling before. I think that
Okay.
they are dangling Bo Nickel in front of you when Rodolfo Vieira, his base is solid BJJ. They tout him as this high level BJJ black belt, which he is. But now he has the added benefit of having improved striking, the likes of which we have not seen from him before. So I think that the two of those together ends up making him a lot closer to a Rainier de Ritter than he ever would have been in the past. I think that if you had come to me with this fight maybe 2 years ago, I would be like Bo Nickel all day long. That would be easy, easy money. The current version of Hidalgo Vieira, I think, is what makes the difference here. Now, granted, it's coming late in the game. I mean, the guy's 36 years old and he's an old dog learning new tricks. I understand that optics of that. But what I have seen out of the actual fighting of it is what's making me take the underdog on this one. And I know it's a crazy one considering how much of an underdog he is, but I believe that Rodolfo Vieira has improved tremendously. You pair that with all of the skills that he already had in the bag, plus the veteran nature of being around for as long as he has been. I think it all adds up to a Rodolfo Vieira win.
Yeah, we can definitely wait to find out. I just feel like Bo Nickel, they would not give him somebody that can beat him after he already just lost. There's no way they're gonna handle him in the way of giving him two straight consecutive L's. This is a get back on the horse fight. It's gonna have to be a finish.
See, now I think that that's where I deviate from you a little bit more too, though, because I think if you want to get down into the behind the scenes back room element of it, I think that the organization has been hearing the conversation about Bo Nickel. I think the organization took stock of the fight with Paul Craig and how ridiculous that whole scene was. And I think that they're like, you know what? Now maybe it's time for us to potentially abandon our own hype train on him. That we had a lot of stock in this guy. He had a lot of credentials coming into this sport that made him very attractive. We've seen that, he's been getting figured out in a couple of ways. Prime time to feed him to somebody who can get the job done, especially a guy who's not a huge name like Vieira. I think it tanks him, gets a failed hype train off of their books the way that they
This
had him before.
this is your Hani Barcelos versus Peyton Talbot, basically.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say so. I mean, like I think Bo Nickel maybe it's a slightly different because of how like where Bo Nickel ended up and like how high they were hot shotting him. Because I don't really think that Peyton Talbot like achieved that level necessarily as quickly. But yeah, I'd say that it is very similar to that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm going for the old man, get it done, Rodolfo Vieira.
Now I'm taking Bo Nickel on this one.
All right. Well, there's a deviation for you. How about on this one? Let's see if we disagree on this. This is Roman Kopylov versus Gregory Rodriguez, the RoboCop. What do you think?
Yeah, I think RoboCop just gets this one done. Unfortunately, Roman is one of my favorites, but after what I saw in his last performance, nah, I'm cool. Paulo Costa is not it, and you were just not able to get it done against him.
You don't think it was a fluke?
No, for sure. He just didn't have it. Just didn't have it. And RoboCop is a dude that you can't just not have it against. I mean, if what he did to Hermanson is anything that you could think about happening to you, I mean, Jesus fucking Christ. But if he can do anything short of what he was doing to Jared Cannonier in the first 3 rounds, in this 3 round fight, I mean, it's going to be a tough night for Kopylov, is all that I'm saying. We'll see if his range striking is going to keep up, but I just can't imagine.
Yeah, that was going to be my note. Is the fact that this is a 3 rounder just lends itself so much to RoboCop. The real detriment for RoboCop is the double-edged sword of being as huge as he is, because on the one hand he is an absolute savage beast in there when he's getting his striking off, but he does gas. I think that with the way that Roman Kopylov fought, if it is going to be carrying over into this fight, I think he just picks him apart almost from the beginning of this thing. Like Roman Kopylov, if he's not going to have the output that he needs, which is really what we saw against Costa, is that he was not throwing enough, he was not doing it enough. If that's going to be the case, then he has to be double speed from where he was in that fight. We saw no output and no speed. That
Yeah,
is not a combination that's going to fly against RoboCop. It certainly didn't fly against Paulo Costa, and I've never been hot on him. So, yeah, unless Roman Kopylov comes out and proves that it was a fluke, which I just don't necessarily think that it is. We've seen really good things out of RoboCop, and I think we're going to see more of them now.
100%. I don't think this will be a finish though. I would hate for it to be a finish, but I'm gonna go ahead and take RoboCop over those 3 rounds.
All right, I'm with that. All right, down the line here, ladies fight Erin Blanchfield versus Tracy Cortez. I know that you are a huge Erin Blanchfield fan, Chase. So you must be riding really hot for your girl here.
Yeah, no, I do like this matchup. I hate that Tracy Cortez actually is taking a fight like this because she's at the point where pretty privilege has gotten her to the opportunity that this is a kill. Like this is somebody who is going to be a champion here soon. If you beat her, you got some really good stock to your name. But Erin Blanchfield, on the other hand, I mean, she was all ready to fight Macy. Macy, obviously had some complications. Now we're in a new matchup, and she has an even easier opponent, in my opinion. I'm not saying Tracy is a slouch, but when it comes to the skill set that I think Erin has, I think it just overthrows what Tracy Cortez is able to offer. I hate saying it in a way that it makes it sound like I'm not a Tracy Cortez fan, but I don't know. I think Blanchfield, she's been training since she was like 6, guys. Like she's like a true killer. She trains with Fatima Klein too, who's also on this card. We'll talk about here in a little bit. They got something good going over there in New York or New Jersey, wherever the fuck it is.
Yeah, well, that's why I kind of was joking a little bit. I don't think Erin Blanchfield is necessarily anyone's favorite female
I mean,
fighter.
she should be. She's really good.
That was going to kind of be my point. I think that, yeah, a lost him in on Furo, it does change the perception a little bit based on what she can handle as far as power goes. That I think is going to be the only real credit to Tracy here, is that she does use her base well. Like Tracy has a solid, like, she has solid core strength basically, and she can maneuver well. But the problem is that Erin Blanchfield's wrestling is really good. So you start trying to cage clench and like muscle her around, she's going to get the trip. I mean, like, she's going to be able to navigate that and thwart whatever you're trying to do. Tracy Cortez likes to get strikes where she can and stall whenever she can't. And I think that is a big problem in a fight like this with Erin Blanchfield, because she is much more well-rounded than that. I think she can stand to improve her striking a little bit, maybe over time. Hopefully that'll continue to improve. Maybe we'll see a little bit better striking in this fight. But if Tracy thinks she's going to be able to get her hands on her and push her around, I think it's going to be a very long fight for her. And I am a fan of Erin Blanchfield, even with her loss to Minan.
Yeah, Tracy lost to Rose, and a more recent Rose is not as skillful as Rose once was, in my opinion. I think Erin Blanchfield has a higher ceiling than what we currently see from Tracy, obviously, and a lot of most flyweights in the division right now. Like what Rose was able to accomplish, I think Erin Blanchfield could similarly get to the belt, of course. But Tracy Cortez is not anybody that I think. And I feel bad saying it like this. This is when it comes to being real about the sport. You have favorites, but sometimes you just gotta. I think Erin Blanchfield just has better skills than Tracy Cortez when it comes to this fight game.
No, yeah, I think you said it exactly right. And I'm also not here to, dog on the pretty girl. Like, it's her looks have really little to do with the fighting aspect of it. You can say that it might be opportunities, whatever. I don't think that plays too much into it. But I think you made a very good point. It's like, gifted opportunities, not necessarily. I wouldn't go that far, but you know how this sport operates. She's a fan favorite for a reason. This is what you end up with after a certain amount of time. You end up going against a legitimate killer, potentially anyway, and and one who is going to be able to beat you at the things that you are good at. We saw that against Rose. Basically, what you just outlined there. You're going to see it again against Aaron Blanchfield, I would say.
Yeah, 100%. Aaron, cold blooded, by the way. Really good nickname for her. Like that.
Absolutely. And Hydra coming in with the important question: will Tracy be wearing her false eyelashes? Those are glued to her face, sir. So yes, she will be.
100%.
And next up on down the line, my favorite, Malcolm Wellmaker versus Cody Haddon. Why is Malcolm Wellmaker fighting Cody Haddon?
Because Malcolm Wellmaker had an opponent that pulled out, and now Cody Haddon is stepping in on short notice. That is why this fight is happening the way that it is. Will this fight go down like all the other fights that have been in Malcolm Wellmaker's reach? Possibly. Because Cody Haddon, like, we sometimes talk about Australians like they're fucking gods. I can tell you, Cody Haddon can also be knocked out. This is a true statement. People can be knocked out by Malcolm Wellmaker. Some people, and listen, I've compared Malcolm Wellmaker to somebody like Alex Bejeda before. It's like we've seen people land shots. We've seen people land left hooks plenty of times, but we haven't seen people land them and people not get up. And like it's not that they do it once or twice. It's every single time that the shot potentially lands, it is devastating to the opponent. Like it's something to actually behold. Like when you're watching again Alex Bejeda, like when you're watching him come up, it's like okay, all he's doing is knocking people out. But you have to understand, these are people that have been going against people for their entire careers that have never been knocked out. They're going against people that are just different at that point. When you go against somebody like Malcolm Wellmaker, you may think that oh, I can take it. As long if I slip up, I can rely on my chin and my recovery. It's like you just don't wake up after this dude hits you. And I think there's just something special about some fighters. Ilya is another one of them. Jeremy Stevens. When they hit him, they just don't fucking move, man. I just genuinely think Malcolm Wellmaker, again, at bantamweight, you don't see it too often. He's a little different than what Sugar Sean was when he was having his run, because that's a bunch of TKOs and shit. This dude here genuinely is flatlining people at 135 pounds, and it's pretty crazy.
I mean, the only thing I can add to all of what you just said is Malcolm Wellmaker is him. The same thing that I said about the main event. Until I see legitimate proof of anything otherwise when it comes to what I have seen on the other side of that coin, I gotta believe it. I mean, Malcolm Wellmaker has been making a believer out. Well, we said, if you recall, Chase, going back to when Malcolm Wellmaker first entered the UFC and then before on the Contender Series, Malcolm Wellmaker was getting the job done so quickly we couldn't remember his name. His fights were so quick that they were blips on the radar. He was knocking people out so quick. Now you know who he is because he's consistently doing it. Greatness is getting the wins and getting them consistently. Wellmaker has been doing that. Show me otherwise, Cody Haddon, but I mean, I don't see it until I see it. I'm not seeing it.
True, 100%.
All right, on the early prelims, Kyle Dawkins coming back once more against GM3, who looked absolutely atrocious in his last performance. What are you thinking here?
I think we're gonna see another atrocious performance from GM3. Who's listen? If Kyle Dawkins is potentially the man back on a mission to knock people out, Gerald Mearshart getting knocked out. He has 20 losses as of right now, guys. I mean, let's not be surprised if he loses again to somebody. How many of these are knocked? I mean, he's been knocked out 5 times. This dude has 29 submissions. Holy fucking shit. This dude is crazy. But yeah, Kyle Dawkins, I'm going to go ahead and take him. Even though I was hating on him last time when I took Michelle Pajeda, I'm going to go ahead and take Kyle Dawkins.
Kyle Dawkins. Yeah, I mean,
over.
This is the new. I mean, they don't have it in this. Well, I guess they have it in the smaller picture up top. This is new blonde Kyle Dawkins. This is Kyle Dawkins 2.0. Gerald Mearshart, I have been saying for I think about the last 4 fights it's about time for him to hang it up. Kyle Dawkins comes in with a point to prove. Gerald Mearshart at the very tail end of his career for the last 4 fights, it would feel like. I mean, every fight seems to be the last fight or should be. I am a huge fan of Gerald Meerschaert and everything he's accomplished. I love the guy. If his last fight was any indication of the level that he is competing at this point, he really probably should have already hung it up. So, Hydra asking, is this going to be the retirement fight for him? I mean, if it goes the way that it is trending in my mind, at least in our minds, it very well should be. And he'll have nothing to be ashamed of at that point, really. I mean, he's had a tremendous career with a lot of great wins. Time comes for us all. And when it starts to go the way that it's been going, you got to see the writing on the wall. So if he gets the submission
Mm-hmm.
here, maybe he hangs on a little bit longer. Even if he gets the win, I think he should retire on the win. Go out on a high note. But he's one of those guys that just it's like the message is not resonating with him. It's not sinking into his brain. GM3, you got to let the message sink in, brother.
Yeah, will he retire this weekend? Shout out
Yes,
Hydra for the
yeah, that's what I
question.
had said there. Yeah, Hydra, bringing that up. So,
Yeah,
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 we shall see. But like I said, one way or another, he should retire, and I do think that Kyle Dawkins, like I said, he's a man on a mission. He came back with a point to prove. He proved it in his last fight. I don't see why he doesn't prove it one more time here.
100%.
All right, next up on this continuously star-studded affair here, this card, Pat Sabatini versus Chepe Mariscal. I really like this fight. I think that Pat Sabatini is a guy who is consistently underestimated, and Chepe Mariscal is a dude who has done some really nice work recently. I think that there's a lot of potential for this to be a very wrestle-heavy, but very high-level wrestle-heavy fight. What are you thinking?
I just realized after taking a quick look, this is a rematch. The first person, this was not in the UFC, of course, but the first person who won was Chepe by split decision. So that's actually kind of interesting. That brings a rematch into question. It wasn't like a first round finish or, a unanimous decision where they finally meet up in the UFC. This is genuinely, they were a split decision before the UFC. Now we're getting a rematch in the UFC. Could be interesting. Pat Sabatini is not somebody that I am high on because when I first was introduced to him, he got finished by Diego Lopez in like the first round, first sequence, just got flipped over into an armbar, or maybe he was the one. I think it was flipped over to an armbar, or yeah. And Chepe, very consistent game. Very somebody again like a Miles Johns, like you know exactly what you're going to get out of him. He's going to get you to the decision. He's not going to push the pace too much. He's not going to go out here and try to finish too much. Pat Sabatini, though, in his most recent performance, looked like I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. Looked like a dude who's actually fucking good at fighting. So, with that being said, could he make it interesting after already losing to Chepe? Does he want this win back so bad? Or are we going to get Chepe to just go ahead and smoke him in the big leagues? I'm going to go ahead and go with
Chepe
Chepe.
is my choice. I mean, you say, that he's Miles Johns like, but I mean, he does have finishing ability. I mean, we have seen him get the finish before. I mean, not as consistently as you would like, for sure. That's really one of the few things in his game that I think is lacking there. But I mean, this dude is really a very talented fighter, and also a guy who's like Pat Sabatini wants to try to make this a grindy, wrestle heavy fight. He's completely comfortable with that. Like Chepe Mariscal is like, bring that kind of fight to me, and I will navigate that accordingly. So, I think for that reason, it's like Pat Sabatini. If you cut off the thing that he's really good at, even though he did come off of a really good win with it, you're limiting a lot of the bandwidth that he has, because falling back on the striking is not necessarily the thing that he is able to switch in his mind as easily. I don't think, it's like, you back him into
Yeah.
a corner, and then now it's like, okay, I really got to figure out something new here. He's on the stool having to get coached into, a plan B. Chepe Mariscal just automatically has that in mind. Okay, if it goes this way, I'll do this. If it goes this way, I'll do this. So, based on that and the navigational elements, I think that I'm going to also take a Chepe.
Hell yeah. That's a good
Indeed.
one.
Another good one here. Angela Hill versus Fatima Klein. This is certainly be a good win for Fatima Klein, I would say.
You know what's crazy is, we ranted and raved about Fatima Klein showing up on short notice to her debut at Elevation, up a weight class, and putting on a very good performance. When you look back, you'll realize that was against Jasmine Jusvicius. Wow, does that age so well for her? Because after that, she's knocked out, TKO with Victoria Dudakova, and then Melissa Martinez. 2 straight KO TKO victories off of a very good performance on short notice in your debut that you get a loss on. Now you're going against Angela Hill. They clearly are wanting Angela Hill out of here finally. This is going to be the finish for Fatima Klein. Just take finish. Just take her by
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
finish.
I mean, Fatima Klein, when we talk about the fighters that you watch from the beginning and you have that feeling about, like you were describing earlier, you want to be right about them. Like, she is certainly it. I mean,
Yeah.
she's got champion potential all over her based on what we've seen early in her career here in the organization. Angela Hill has a whole syndrome named after her. If you listen to me, she's the most inconsistent fighter on the planet. You think she's going to win, she loses. You think she's going to lose, she wins. I don't think that this is going to be the case on this one. I mean, Fatima Klein is going to be bucking that trend in a major way. There's nothing that Angela Hill brings to the table that Fatima Klein cannot handle and cannot be better than her at this stage in her career. Angela Hill, who is 18-15, folks. If this is not Angela Hill's swan song, it very, very well should be. And I do think that you're right, though, that this is them feeding the old to the young here. It's the classic tale, and Fatima Klein is the exact fighter for that to be going exactly how they want it to go. So Fatima Klein, take it by finish. If you listen to Chase, take her to win, however you want to cut it. Fatima Klein is getting this job done. If she doesn't get the job done here, I think that I will genuinely question the universe, or maybe that'll be one of the fixed ones.
Yeah, true. Yeah, she might be getting paid 70
Yeah,
grand.
really, exactly. If 5 very large bets all come in at the Hard Rock, then just be aware.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and to start this card off, this is Bisinger Susurkayev versus Eric Mechanico. I know that you are a Mechanico enjoyer. All right, wait, no, that was the other guy, not Mechanico.
No.
Who was the one? The other dude. Why am I forgetting that guy's name now? The middleweight guy that you're a fan of that came in. The dude who fought Menefield. There you go.
Julius
Thank you.
Walker.
I was confusing the two of them. Okay. Yes, Mechanico. He had a sloppy performance in his last fight, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so his last performance was against Cody Brundage. They went to a split decision or something like that back in August. It was awful. The fight before that, he gets knocked out by Ruzaboev. I'm going to go ahead and say take Sursakayev. I mean, by a finish. I mean, he actually shows listen, he is somebody that goes in there and has a little too much fun, where he's laughing, having a good time, after he strikes the dude up. But then when he starts getting hit back, he does kind of lock in. And not only is he a striker, but he did get a submission in his last fight. He's at least willing to go ahead and try to choke somebody out if it doesn't work on the feet.
No, I mean, I call him M. Bisinger for a reason, even though I do not very much like the showboaty and jokey aspects of his game, as Chase alluded to there. I very much agree. He having a little too much fun out there is going to bite you in the ass eventually. Not in this fight. I think he's going to do just fine in this one. Yeah. Mechanico is, what we saw in that last one is, he, kind of a sloppy dude, especially after he's under a lot of pressure. Kind of a guy that I almost question why he's still around, kind of thing, which I feel maybe that's a little harsh, but just kind of calling it how I see it on that one. This is another tee up for Susurkayev. Susurkayev is Hamzat's buddy. They're wanting him to stick around and make a little bit of a name for himself as well. This is an easy tee up for him to get knocked out of the park here.
So. 100%. Yeah, definitely agree with
that one.
So
there you have it. Of course, we will be watching all of these fights together with you fine folks on the watch along. That will be myself and the Vitz King. You can find us at youtube.com/@Yamashoa. And Chase, I know you can tell them where they can find you.
You guys can always find me on youtube.com/@CPSmalls. Of course, we're watching UFC on Saturdays, One Championship on Fridays, and then, of course, this great show on Monday nights. So make sure you guys are here. Hit the subscribe button, like, comment, let us know what everything else is going on with you.
Yeah, make sure if you're available and around, make sure you're watching those one cards with Chase, because there's some really, really good fights on there, some really good entertainment to be had over there, and you can be hanging out with my boy while you're doing that. So definitely do all of that. Right. I am at Yamashow on Twitter and Instagram and on Facebook as well. So you can like all of those and follow your boy for all of the social media stuff that we do on there. I am going to be very busy getting the edit of our review of Warrior for MMA on Film that we just did. You can watch the VOD of that now if you want to see the unedited version of it, and the edited version is underway. I have got a lot on my plate right now, but trust I am going to be getting that edit out as soon as possible. So keep your eyes out for that. Possibly going to try to sprinkle in a little bit of extra content during the week if I can, based on the fact that that's not going to be out for a little while. So keep your eyes on the channel as always. But either way, we will be here for the fights. So tune in. We will see you then. Have a great rest of your night, a great rest of your week. And as always, fight on.